Hello, it's Dean Allen here, and I'm back in one of my favourite towns in South Africa, Cradock. I'm at Maitland Beach, which is about 30 kilometres from the centre of Port Elizabeth. Good morning from the beautiful Founders Lodge here in the Eastern Cape. I could wake up to this view every morning for the rest of my life. I'm here at Grey High School, one of the oldest schools in the country. I'm here to write the history of conservation in the Eastern Cape, and we moved from Cape Town about a month ago and we couldn't be happier. People told me it was going to be the windy city, but as you can see today, there's not a breath of breeze in the air. It's also known as the friendly city, and that I can certainly testify. The people here are magnificent. So I look forward to sharing with you over the coming months the history of this town and this region.
Relax, sit down, coming out of PE town. Drink, find a shot, never mind your liver, get to Ginos Spot.
Ginos Spot!
Get to Ginos Spot.
Ginos Spot!
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle, have a Gino shot.
Ginos Shot!
Get to Ginos Spot.
Ginos Spot!
Get to Ginos Spot.
Ginos Spot!
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle, get to Ginos Spot.
Ginos Spot!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome indeed to a Ginos Spot this lovely evening. We've had a little bit of rain. We're hoping for more. Indeed, PE needs more rain, and so does of course, all the surrounding areas in the Eastern Cape. We need the rain, and so we're hoping we're going to do it. I actually got to write a song, a rain dance song with my mate, of course, from the Samson from the weather services. We're going to get him on and make sure that we know what's going on with regard to day zero, which is already here. Apparently, it is here, but everybody's buying tanks. I wish that I had invested in JoJo tanks just about a year ago or so. That would have been wonderful. See, there are people online already tonight, because tonight is a very, very special show. It's a bit of a different show tonight, indeed. We've gone on a bit of a tangent, and we've got Dean Allen in tonight, who's going to be talking about all sorts of stuff. Let me tell you a couple of teasers. You know, Dean is multifaceted. He's a lecturer. He was a lecturer. He was a conservation. He's into conservation. He's a writer. He's written all these books behind me. Look at them. Thousands of books. And of course, he's a historian because he's into the history, and I love that's what interested me right in the beginning was that the history, because the history of the Eastern Cape specifically is what he's into, and isn't that's the best thing that can possibly be on Gino Spot at this particular time. And also, he's just recently become a social media guru with a video that's gone completely viral. And it's by viral, I mean like insanely viral. 15 million, 16 million, 100 million views. Incredible amount of views that this video has got. We're going to chat to him about that. Whether that's good or bad, we don't know. We're going to find out. And I hope that you guys have got something to drink and something to something to sip on while we're talking, because we're going to have a lovely conversation tonight. And we've got some interesting start. We're going to start it differently. We're going to do it differently. And Gary's been working like a maniac. In fact, I think if it is to carry on, I think we'd carry on. I'd be each other's throats. Camilla Ellis, lovely to see you as well. Hi, all very involved in PE history as well. Of course, from the library, she would be, Dean's looking at, he's got wide eyes already because she's going to ask difficult questions. Lavender, lovely name. What a lovely name, Lavender. Wambua, thank you. Tuning for Nairobi, Kenya. Excellent. I think possibly our first person from Kenya that's ever. And I don't know if I can pronounce that first name. Michael Mkeleli sounds closer. And a shout out from I didn't see that. Where was that? Makanda. Oh, it's the Grahamstown. Excellent. It's Tepe. It's a Tepe. And that was, of course, one of his students. There we go, at Siput in Monroe. Lovely to have you on board as well. We got lots of comments coming through. It's going to be good fun. And keep those comments coming. Keep them coming in. We got the Englishman in PE. An Englishman in PE. We're going to find out. He's the man who came all the way from England when everybody was going out of South Africa to England. And then not only that, he didn't stop there. No, he came all the way from Cape Town to PE against the flow, because he believes in PE, and that's fantastic. We're going to chat to him as to why and how and who and why and what. And Wendy Swanell, lovely to see you as well. Gino, hopefully you should receive around 16 millimeters of rain on Thursday. We hope so. 30 millimeters in Corridor, which is great for the Churchill Dam. I hope so. That'll be fantastic. And I hope it's going to fill up all the tanks across the and so we won't have any more, and there won't be any more water problems at all. Gail Sturgis, lovely to see you. Andrew, and you watching from Bushmans. Van Bushmans 8. Yes, I learned to windsurf on that river. Bushman's River, such a lovely wide lagoon, and such good people there in Kenton on Sea, eh? Proper Lower Albany there, Kenton, Salem, the guys are out, they're all like, what, they talk like this, Dean, and they play bridge, and they love their tennis, and they love to sit around and have tea. Indeed. Paul Thompson, lovely. Oh, keep Dean off the cricket field, he says. We'll find out about that. Ciao, Gabriella Alangileri, or Pepucho, all the way from PE. Griselle Hart, Garth Webster. Well, we got lots of people. Ladies and gentlemen, send me some comments. Tell me what you're drinking. Tell me where you're watching from, and I'll sing your comments for you. We're going to start out with a little song just to get you warmed up. That's right, because that's the way we do it on Gino's Spot. I've chosen a song that's by Evoid. Evoid is a South African band. I think they're from East London. Maybe someone can tell us. I seem to remember Evoid were from East London. And they played a whole lot of times at Shepherd's Bush in England. So we thought it's a good tie-in. I see Rita Volman enjoying my show. Oh, with Leslie Young. I see Rob Blamey, supporting Dean from the beautiful West Country. I think the West Country is, Birmingham, maybe, no, that's the Midlands, I don't know. Rhino, Shadows, Lucy, Jane from Scotland. I wish I could speak like a Scottish person. Mary, lovely. A cup of coffee. That's right, they got delay. Lions, Irene Giaconi. The G-spot, that's right. That's a little rude. Oh, Wendy Thompson. All right, good evening, she says, Ian Olivier, nice to see you, Pam Golding Estates. There we go. Lucy Jane says, hi, Dean. Hope you are well. I'll pass on the message to him sitting there. From Peter Ross, greetings from Josie. Peter Ross can play the guitar. He does all that shadow stuff. And Des Mahoney, how's it? And Iris Winston Bottom from J-Bay, just up the road. Don Taylor, hi Gino and Gary. Gary sitting, topping there. Marjorie, a Cooper. Good luck to all involved in tonight's show. How's it? Good love from Tracy and Torrin. What a lovely girl she is. That's right, Lucy Jane and Brian Wilkinson. Also Hannah Butter, Kate Picky from Stellenbosch, and Blue Water Bay. Abidemi Lazore. Abidemi, I like that name too. Abidemi. Listening from PE, excellent. Glebergeni. It's everybody gets it wrong, you know. I know. We English people, we sickle with this, with the clicks. You know, let me just a quick explanation. Up at the top of the mouth, that's where it comes from. Like you. That's the one. You got to get that click, and then you say a G with it, like a Gleberga. That's it. It's Freeborn, how's it? If Boyd was from Brakpan. No, come on, Freeborn, Freeborn was from Queenstown. He's our resident Gino Spot coin specialist. We've got to have you on again, Freeborn. We're going to see what's going on. I do believe there was a tie into East London somewhere. Camilla Ellison had Eppie's Pizza. Oh, yes, the Nose Pizza. Eppie was on our show last week. It was the Nose Pizza. Fantastic pizzas. All right, Jane Holden, wine on the couch, beautiful. I've got myself a little gin and tonic. Thank you very much, Fitch and Lees. And thank you to our sponsors, of course. Spa, you'll see them above us. They have been unbelievable support. And as a community brand, they have done wonders for my show, as well as so many different things that they've got involved in, including what I'm wearing now, the Spa Women's Challenge, which is this year. It's all about the GBV, trying to bring awareness about gender-based violence. 10K. This was the 10K Women's Challenge. Obviously, it's a virtual run on the 3rd of September. Please make sure you sign up. You can sign up. #IRise. That's what we use. The hashtag #IRise and the Spa Virtual Challenge. Look it up. The Spa Virtual Challenge. Even Gary can probably find a link there somewhere as well. Just sign in. And you go and look for your, you go and sign in online, and you'll get yourself a T-shirt and a buff. And look at all my stuff I got. I got it in advance. I'm ready to rock for 3rd of September. So it's coming up, but bookings are now open. Registration is now open for that. So don't forget. Also, we'll be having Yolanda Bukani on soon. I've got to get her on the show too. She is one of my fellow brand ambassadors for Spa too, and it's been a fantastic ride with Stapes and the guys for Spa. So thank you to them. Absolutely, thank you to them. As well as, of course, our Amobia, our internet provider, and Fat Cats for our lovely little chow that we've got tonight. Thank you very much, Grace. She brought something around. And then we've got Fitch and Leeds, of course, who've been helping us out with giveaways at the end of the show. So at the end of the show, you can win a case of Fitch and Leeds. We will post it to you no matter where you are. I don't know about Nairobi, but we can give it a go. We'll give it a go. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's just about time to start our show and invite our amazing, multifaceted smorgasbord of information, Mr. Dean Allen. Well, let's have a look at you and have a little introduction.
Ooh, welcome to the show. Now it's your time to shine. We're gonna have a lekker chat tonight. Another good time.
Welcome, Dean Allen. Let's see where are we on. We've got the mics on. Everything's right. You never know what's going to happen, Dean. You never know. On a live stream, anything can happen anytime. Thank you for coming on. Fantastic to have you here in PE.
No, what a joy being here, and cheers to everybody out there. Thank you. Cheers to everyone.
Thank you for joining us tonight. You know, tonight is
it's been, I think it's been quite a journey with you, because let me tell you, Dean knows a lot and has learned a lot in the last couple of weeks or months about social media as well. It's just your brand is kind of exploding here. You've just moved to PE all the way from Cape Town. Oh my God! What are you busy with at the moment? What are you doing here in PE?
Well, talk about being in the right place at the right time, Gino. I mean, this is great to be on this show. I mean, you're just a legend in PE. I mean, everybody said you had to be on the Gino Spot show.
So to get on the G Spot.
We're on the G Spot, but we won't go there tonight. No, it's fantastic to be in PE. We moved here about 2 months ago. Been invited to write, we'll talk about it, the History of Conservation by Mr. Adrian Gardner, which is an absolute honour.
Fantastic.
So, as people are moving to Cape Town, as you know, from all around the country, I decided to go against the flow and come to the Eastern Cape, because this is the real place, isn't it? The real people.
I think that PE's got so much. There's still so much to give, Yeah. And we've got to get together. This is what the show's about. It's just trying to get people together, get people positive about PE. And I see already you're talking about, to people like Denise van Hasten from the chamber and various people who are trying to just push forward, despite the politics.
I mean, as a historian, it's one of the original towns, of course, and there's just walking around along the seafront in the CBD. I mean, you can just sense how this was. Yeah. It is an amazing place, but for me, and we'll talk about it, it's the people. It's known as a friendly city, and it really is the truth. And I promise you, every time the Cape Townians say, but it's very windy, no, I'm telling you, Cape Town's got some wind, but we've got the friendly people here. Yeah. And it's just great to be here. I brought my young family here, and they love it as well, which is fantastic. And we've just been welcomed wherever we've gone, and which is fantastic. And it's called a city, but it feels like a town to me, and it's lovely. There's so much for me to do here. I can't wait to get started.
There is a part of it. And I saw you sitting in Maitlands, and they've got the most beautiful beaches. It is a wonderful place. Yeah. But now I think what we're going to do is we're going to switch things around a bit tonight, because we've got a whole array of people online tonight, and let me just say, I want to say welcome to all the people that Dean's friends and Dean's followers that are coming to watch as well, and of course our normal Ginos Spot bunch, the bunch of hoodlums that are always here. And we love you, and thank you so much for your support. And obviously, if there's any questions, anything you want to put up, just put up the comments. Gary's got the comments there, and he can just bring them on the screen every now and again. We'll probably hit them in batches, because I think there are quite a lot. In fact, we might just want to look at just a couple to say hi there for now. Let's see who's online. It's Robert Allen.
Hello, Rob. Yeah, nice to hear from you. Yeah, no, good man.
Where's Rob?
Rob's up in Bloem, and there's Rennie. Rennie Ferreira is one of my greatest supporters, and look, she's calling you from Portugal, which is fantastic.
Epa!
No, lovely to see you. Thank you.
Epa!
Thank you.
And there we go, Lisa Williams-Brainers.
Hello, Lisa.
From GQ. I like the. I'm getting used to that GQ. The name. I quite like the idea that it's named after a plant.
Now I can say GQ, of course, but I mean the name thing for me. No, I'm not even going to go there with the clicks. I mean, I'm absolutely useless anyway. You can probably hear. By the way, I've got to say to you, you didn't know where the West Country was.
No, I don't. I'm not very good with that stuff.
And look, a lot of the guys on are from the West Country. My football team's Bristol City. It's the good old West Country, Bristol and Bath. I'm from a little place called Minehead, near Minehead, on the West Somerset sort of coast, opposite Cardiff, opposite Wales. Okay. We won't talk about the Welsh.
Oh, Welsh.
We're on the right side of the
Tom Jones.
On the right side of the Bristol Channel, but no, the West Country, it's lovely. It's I think it's like the garden route of England.
Wow.
So it's a beautiful part of the country, but we're known as country bumpkins. So this accent is
south. It's west, southwest.
So you've heard Cornwall, of course, and Devon. Well, Somerset makes up the three counties of the southwest. Okay. So in the summer, our little lanes are just packed with tourists coming down to the beaches and the stuff. So, but it's a lovely part of the world. And
is the weather better down there, or
it's certainly better. Lucy's watching from Scotland. It's certainly better than Scotland. That's for sure.
But Scotland's got summer. It's also beautiful.
No, the weather's pretty good back there, I must admit. But I'm
They see no score. That's all that matters, Dean. I tell you.
Well, exactly, you know. But I will say, once I realised that I needed the sun on my back, even the West Country didn't have enough sunshine. A lot of my friends will know that. I just, even from a small lad, I used to just follow the sun. As soon as I went to Spain on holiday as a 10-year-old, and I realised that the sun was shining above those clouds, my life was changed forever. So I was always going to live in the sunshine, I must admit. But it is home,
Well, hence South Africa, I'm sure, you know, that's why it came through. But we're gonna do, first of all, get a little bit of a getting to know you session with Dean before we dig into his historian lecturer thing, you know, which is always the thing you get interviewed about. I'm sure. So the biggest risk that you've ever taken, Dean?
Well, that's a very good question. I think it was really when I know my mum's probably watching now, and she remembers the time. I was 26 when I went back to university, and I had a very steady office job, but I was bored out of my head.
Okay.
And we'll talk about how I
what
came
were you
to
doing
that.
there?
Do you know, I worked in a bank for 4 years. I mean, I'm useless at maths.
Bank?
I was that bad at banking, they didn't even let me in front of the customers. I was upstairs on the machine, and me and my friend Richard, all we did was muck around all the time. The day I handed in my notice in the bank, the bank manager said, I think it's a good idea, Dean. So that was never going to work. But I went to university at the age of 26, 27, so I gave up that steady job, and it was a risk.
Yeah,
because you were giving up the income and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But here I am sitting here, and it's changed my life forever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the first person in my family to go to university, so I kind of had to break the mould. I had to explain to my parents why I was doing this, and I didn't really know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
But lucky enough, it was back in '97, and back then they paid you a little bit of money to go to university.
Nice.
And you got a grant, which was
thanks for
incredible.
that. Yeah.
Now the students come out with 10,000 in debt, and I probably wouldn't have had the courage to do it. But then it was still a massive risk to do that as an older guy to go back to university. So probably that's
and that fear. I mean, as an older person going to university again, you think, gee whiz, can I still do this? You know, because you haven't had your nose in the books for 5-6 years.
Listen, I was Mr. Average at school. I say this at my talks and to my students. I never got an A throughout my school career. Yeah, I came out, and because I suppose
you shouldn't say that.
I shouldn't say that.
Oh, an historian.
But I was obviously a late developer, Gino, because then I went to university and I came top of the year because, you know what, I knew how to play the system. I knew how to work hard and play hard.
Yes.
And how to do the balance in life. Yeah. And I think sometimes as an 18-year-old, they don't understand the balance, you know. And thankfully, I made the most of it, which was incredible. And thanks to the support of all the people around me, I'm sitting here now.
For sure. Yeah, because that gives you an idea of the risk factor involved here. He's clearly not scared to jump off that cliff. I mean, to be a writer as well, and to do this, what you're doing now as well. We'll talk about that later, but that is also a hell of a risk. In case you didn't know.
Just watch what I say tonight.
It's a risky business, this stuff. The hardest that you've ever worked?
Well, I've been working with Gary over the last few days preparing this show, and I tell you what, that guy works hard, and he's been keeping me going, I'm telling you. What we do actually as entrepreneurs, as entertainers, as speakers, you really do work, because you've got to hustle all the time. You've got to get your material together, but you've also got to get your audience. So it's really hard.
Because you do a lot of speaking engagements as well.
Speaking engagements, and I still engage with schools and universities and things like that. But if I think about really when I was really focused and dedicated, it's probably during the PhD. Now, anybody ever says to you a PhD is a test of intelligence, well, of course it is, but it's a test of discipline. And I tell you what, that thing sat on my shoulder for 5 years. And once I started, I had to finish it. But no, talk about hard work. And it was, and I gave up a lot. There was a lot of sacrifice there as well. So if anybody does 2 PhDs in their life, they need their heads tested, I tell you. But no, that was a hard period.
Because you've been told about the first one already, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Classic. Okay, so most uncomfortable place you've ever slept?
Well, that's in South Africa, and I remember this. When I first came here, I fell in love with Cape Town, and I would get invitations to go on hikes and go places, and they would say, right, let's take this Englishman up the mountain. So Table Mountain was there, and the hiking club of South Africa had the hut, and they were the only people allowed, I don't know if it's still the case today, the only people allowed to sleep on Table Mountain overnight, and I got an invitation to go with them. But unfortunately, this day, it was wet, it was misty, I couldn't see a hand in front of my face. And when we got to the hut, and I was already miserable and fed up anyway, they said, because you're the newcomer, we'll let you sleep outside tonight. I was outside.
Lucky you.
I was outside in the wet, the mist, the damp, on top of Table Mountain in a sleeping bag, and I honestly say I couldn't wait to get down off of that mountain. So that's probably the. That's
pretty hectic. Outside, no, I'm not a big one for sleeping under the stars.
I'm not into camping really. You've got to have a nice bed and a shower and a.
Was it windy?
It wasn't wind, it was just wet. I just woke up and I remember the drips were off my nose. And they said, "Did you enjoy yourself?" And of course, me being polite, it was wonderful.
Oh, lovely.
No, never again.
Oh, it's lovely to sleep under the stars. Biggest adrenaline rush you've ever had in your life?
Oh well, I've had a few, but I think when I first came here, I was into everything. I wanted to do stuff, and I ended up throwing myself out of a plane with someone attached to me.
Okay.
I didn't trust myself to pull the cord, but we did a skydive from 12,000 feet. And the funny thing was, the guy, I was that in the zone, and obviously my mind kicked in and said, "You're not jumping out of this plane." I remember holding on to the plane, and the guy had to beat my arms to get me off. I didn't even, when I watched the video back, I didn't even feel that.
You really remember it?
And he said to me, "Do you want to do a somersault when you come out of the plane?" I said, "What the heck? I'm jumping out of the plane. Let's do it." But that was incredible, and I always remember the silence when the chute went up. The rush was incredible, but the silence, and then it kicked in.
Wow.
My legs were dangling 10,000 feet, and that was really the longest, probably 3 or 4 minutes of my life. But what a thing! I wouldn't do it now, of course. That was back in the day.
No, once you have children, I think it's a little bit of a change.
I think life gets a bit more precious and whatever. But you're daft, aren't you?
Yeah.
I should have known better, really. But
it's fine.
But my friend used to come and visit me every year, and every year I used to take him on one of these things, and the poor guy, he hated it. And I'd say, "Right, we're going to jump off a bridge, we're going to jump out of a plane," and we ended up doing that. But no, why
can't I just have a braai with Dean? It'd be so nice to just sit around and have a glass of wine. He always wants to go jumping out of things.
That was amazing.
It just made me think of the time that first time when you realise you've actually got children and a wife, and I think that should I really do this?
Yeah.
Head on a motorcycle around a track or a
No, this is it. But I must admit, that moment when that door opened, I thought, "What the hell am I doing here?" I mean, this is just crazy. And as I said, I was going to hang on for dear life, and that guy had to beat my arm off. But I'm proud to say I did it. We also did the bridge swing, which is not the big bungee
king swing. Okay.
Yeah, but that was crazy. It's like jumping off a bridge to your death. You see the ground rush up, and I just thought, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You're pushing your luck, really. No, South Africa offers those opportunities, so you have to do it.
It does. And they've got that lovely old Wendy Swanwell will know. Wendy's online, and she's they do that Treetop canopy tour. That's much safer.
Okay.
And very nice.
Okay, Wendy, I'll come with you and do that. So it sounds a lot more pleasant now.
They do that up there, I know. Okay, last one for now. We've got another 5 later on, which we'll do towards the end. The most important chance encounter that you ever had?
Chance encounter, and that's another reason why I'm sitting here. Would you believe I went to the gym in November 1995 in Taunton. Again, I was working in a boring office job, and I struck up a conversation with a lady at the water fountain, at the water machine in the gym, and this accent came out, and she was Afrikaans. Her name was Van der Merwe. She happened to be a dentist working in Taunton, and she is the reason why I'm here, because she actually said, "Go back to university." She said, "Come to Cape Town and see South Africa," and it changed my world. Wow. So I didn't know what I was doing in my mid-20s. I was kind of drifting. I was living for the weekends, my sport, and stuff like that. But that changed my life. Going to the gym that day and meeting that lady, and coming to South Africa, because it wasn't even on my radar.
Agenda, yeah.
I didn't even really know where, Table Mountain, Cape Town, or anything. It was a country that I kind of heard of, but it wasn't there. I watched the sort of Springbok final in '95, and that was interesting because a few months before I realised that this country was special and was going through something different. So to meet an Afrikaner in my hometown with this exotic accent, and
did she say Thornton?
She did, yeah, I think she did.
With an F.
But that was incredible. And I remember thinking I really like these people, because there was a group of them working there, and that's when I sort of found my tribe. I've used that term quite often, but I felt really at home with these people. Wow. They live life to the fullest. Every weekend they go off to Paris, or they go skiing or whatever. Always on a budget, because South Africans do things on a budget.
Proper.
And they just bring me along, and I thought, these people are living their life. They are really making the most out of every opportunity. Yeah. And they also inspired me, because they were brilliant. They were doctors and dentists, and they were travelling the world, and that's when I thought, well, maybe I can do something like that. So that's the encounter that really did change my life.
Oh man! Well, I know that we've got to hit into now the meat of the interview, I suppose, and we find out why you eventually got here. You said you found this lady. It's a good segue into how you came to South Africa. I mean, we'll go into I'm not sure if we should go way back into the history. Maybe we should, as to where you were born, where you went to school, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, it's an important part of my story, really. I was born in a town called Minehead in West Somerset. I'm from a little village called Willerton, and Mum and Dad's watching now, and they still
West Country.
The West Country.
Yeah, the West
good.
Country.
I'm glad
I know where that is.
You know it is. No, it's part of my grounding. A lovely rural area, simple kind of life, really. But I went to a school with 1,200 people. It's a state school.
A big school.
Yeah, it was a lot of competition, and you kind of got lost. And I was, like I said, I was Mr.
Co-ed, girls and boys.
Co-ed, yeah. And I was Mr. Average at school. I liked my sport, but I was one of the youngest in the year, so you kind of get left behind. I'm born in July, you see, so September's the start of the year, so you're almost a year behind some of the kids in the. And anyway, I went on, I did A-levels, did okay, and I went and worked in the bank locally. But that background, I was at that moment, I wasn't ready to go to university or see the world. I was quite happy plodding along, living for, as most Brits do, for the Saturday night, for the sport and their night out. And I got my car and I was quite happy with life. But I think your first crossroads in life, Gino, I don't know if you know, is sort of in your mid-20s when you realise, okay, the novelty's wearing out now, but what's next? And that's when I met Van der Merwe, and she brought me to South Africa. And she gave me the confidence. In fact, I think she filled in the form for university.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she said, well, why don't you go? So the whole thing kind of developed like that. And so the background, I was almost, I needed to come out of my shell.
Well, I was my wife, I know my wife is going to be analysing you already, because she works with children, and she's always, especially with ADD kids like myself, and children that you were saying younger, so perhaps not as mature as the kids in older kids in the class, and always on the back foot. So, do you think that was a thing?
Yeah, no, very much so. And there was so much competition as well. I mean, the only thing I could really sort of excel at was my sport, and even then there were people better than me. And that's what I say to students now. It's important that kids realise that they're not necessarily they know what they're going to do at 16, 17, 18. They're making some of the biggest decisions of their life, whether they go into a job or go to university. And when I teach them, especially first years at university, I'll say to them, look at my example. You may change, you will change. I think I saw a stat that you have 3 major career changes in your life on average. Yeah. So mine came in my mid-20s to change the whole thing. But the interesting thing about it, I always felt I wanted to be sort of a teacher, and I enjoyed kids, I like sport. So that's what I signed up to do, actually, become a physical education teacher. But me being me, I looked at the circle around home, and I didn't want to go more than an hour and a half away from home. I mean, that's what a small town boy I was. So I ended up at Cardiff, and I would come home every weekend. But then I got the opportunity to go to Stellenbosch University for a semester. Wow. And because she was down here then, and I came back down. Wow, this thing just changed my life.
And are you still in touch with her?
Unfortunately not. I bumped into her mum and dad about a year or two ago, and they said a lovely thing. They said, we're following your journey, Dean. And I said, give her my regard. I think she ran off with a rich businessman from Victoria, but that's another thing. But no, the lady changed my life.
Yes, of course.
She did. The distance thing did for us in terms of the romance, but she saw something in me, and I'd forever be grateful. I thank her in my book, and it's a wonderful thing.
That's great. Now, South Africans are. I have a different viewpoint from you, so it's actually interesting to note. We always think, the English people think South Africans are very hard workers, but do they really?
Well, there is a reputation for that, of course. I know. I mean, when we didn't have to get visas, of course. I mean, you would go over there, and South Africans could be found everywhere. Well, let's face it, they're found everywhere anyway in the world. But I certainly know with that group, the dentists, they were employed in the NHS, and they used to call it the filling factory. Because as my British friends will know, our dentistry isn't the best. We're not known for our great teeth. And these poor South Africans would turn up and have to work for the NHS, and they were horrified at the amount of fillings they would have to do. I always remember that. And I know I love the dentists in this country. That's an advantage of being here. But no, they were there because of the opportunity. It was seen as even today, to go to Britain, it's an opportunity.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
I've always seen my opportunity here in South Africa.
Yes. I know,
It's almost
amazing.
like I've found the place I need to be.
Well, I love to hear that, Dean. I love to, and I'm sure a lot of people do, because a lot of us have stuck it out, and I'm one that believes it. Just stay. I mean, I love this place. We have a beautiful way of life, and I want to stay here.
Yeah.
Absolutely do. And a lot of people are immigrating, but I'm glad to know that you're coming out from there to here. It's a good sign.
For me, it's all about the people. I struck a chord with the people. I love the lifestyle. It's outdoor lifestyle. It's sunshine. You don't have to plan a month in advance if you go and visit somebody. It's all spontaneous. Life is a bit more freer here.
Yeah.
Yet we've got probably the worst reputation or worst marketing department in
Yeah.
world tourism, for example, because people don't really understand what it's like here. And as I often say, when I go back to the UK and do talks, I wouldn't be there if it was awful.
Yeah.
I've travelled. I've lived in Australia. I've travelled around America. I've been all around the world. This place has got something special. It's the best kept secret. But because of its reputation for the other stuff, which we have got, we've got problems with crime and politics and those kind of things.
Yeah.
It really takes away from what we have here. It's got soul. I think that's something I found. Africa has soul.
Yeah.
The people are, especially here in Port Elizabeth, for example. I mean, I go for a run along the front, and every single person greets you. They
Yes.
smile. They say,
We do that.
No, it's
And the
fantastic.
people, and we go over to England or to New York or wherever, and the people think you're bloody crazy. I think we want to attack them.
Yeah.
Why's that guy greeting me? Hello, I'm from Port Elizabeth. Lovely, eh?
And the head goes down, and they
You're
go,
from New York. Do you know Jimmy, whatever?
No, it's lovely. It's a naivety, isn't it?
Yes.
And do you know what? During the World Cup in 2010, when a lot of people experienced this for the first time, that was what they took away. They'd never been to a place like it with that kind of energy.
Yeah.
And I thought, the world's catching on now. I hope not many people know about it, because we don't want, you want too
Well,
many people.
we want to let them through slowly.
Yeah.
And so Stellenbosch came across and studied.
Amazing,
Wow.
amazing.
And what was your majors in?
Well, the thing was, remember, she was an Afrikaner,
Yes.
Van der Merwe. So I learned as an Englishman, or an Engelsman, as they call it here in Afrikaans, to keep my mouth shut and to listen, because they're going to tell you a lot of the history you perhaps don't appreciate.
Yes.
We can go back to the serious stuff like the Anglo-Boer War and whatever, and I didn't realise the role that the British played down here.
Yeah.
The concentration camps and those kind of things, scorched earth. And I thought, hang on, I've got to respect this history a little bit more. So I made it my focus to research not so much the dynamic between black and white people in the country, but the dynamic between the two white groups, which hadn't really been done.
Yeah.
And then I realised there was this divide. Even Van der Merwe's, Helga was her name, her own grandmother was quite reluctant to meet me.
Really?
Because I was an Englishman. And then I thought, now I understand that. But I was never ever made to feel unwelcome.
Yeah.
But it was a case of I knew I had to basically respect the situation. But the interesting thing was, for the first time in my life as an Englishman, we're on an island now of 70 million people. People were asking me my opinion on big issues, and I thought, it's a real privilege now that I've got, and I've got to show them the respect to be informed.
Yes.
So I did a lot of reading, and at that stage I'd started at Cardiff to do a phys ed degree, but I was not so much into the activities, or more into the studying, and I was enjoying looking at the history of sport. So here in South Africa, of course, they play cricket, rugby, soccer, netball, hockey, all the British sports, and I wanted to know how and why that came down here. And I was at Stellenbosch, of course, Gino, and there's a big rugby university, and you've got these big Afrikaans guys playing the most English of sports.
Yes.
And I thought, hang on, if you're anti-English, why are you playing this sport? And it was a case of beating them at their own game.
Yeah.
I realised that the history of these sports all had different ways in which it could almost be a lens through which to look at the history of the country.
Yeah.
So when people say to me, oh, you're the sports guy, I'll say, no, I'm a history guy, that I use sport as a lens through which to look at things. Because sport, as you know, especially here in South Africa and in the UK, is one of the most important cultural things we have. So
can be so political as well as history. History and sport can be so such a political tool.
Yeah. And Sweetie, I mean, this was my drink in Stellenbosch, Windhoek. I don't want to
Yeah,
give them
yeah.
a plug. But as the Windhoeks flowed, of course, the Trues started to come out, and perhaps things, you know, and
True serum.
Yeah, exactly. And I listened to the attitudes and things like that, and I thought, do you know what, this could be my role to actually write a bit of history here, because there were so many gaps. Because I read about things like the cricket tours to Australia and the West Indies and places, but nobody had really gone into the depth of writing it here. So I decided to sign up for a master's degree at Stellenbosch, which then turned into a PhD, and we'll talk about as we go on, because that led to the book. So I was now probably living my best life. I'm in my late 20s, turning 30. I'm a student in Stellenbosch.
Prime of your life, young
And I'm
man.
telling you, people at home would say to me, Dean, you're very brave to go to Africa and study. And I remember it was a Tuesday in February, and my friends in England will appreciate this. February in England is not the prettiest place.
Cold.
And I'm lying by this Olympic-sized pool watching all these beautiful blonde ladies walk past me, and I'm thinking, Africa, I love it.
Yeah.
But no, joking aside, for me, I was shown a welcome, and basically this is where I had to do my work. It just felt like the place. And ever since I've tried to go back, and I've tried to do other things, but it's pulled me back.
Wow.
And now
So
I'm
it's really
resigned
become
to
your
it.
home.
It's home. It's home.
Wow.
It's our spiritual home. I mean, COVID, we'll talk about COVID, I'm sure.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
had an amazing experience. It was almost an epiphany that this was where we needed to be. Now, as I said, my wife and my baby now, we've just had a baby, and this is home for us all. My wife is Slovakian, and she also believes in South Africa, which is quite
So
incredible.
now, how did you meet your wife is Slovakian? Good Lord, man.
I told you this was a story. I hope everybody's charged their glasses.
Yes, get some drinks together. I don't know if there's, maybe we should have a quick look while we've got a bit of a break at some of the comments. We've got a whole bunch of comments coming through here. I see tuning from Nairobi, Kenya. I see Lavender, lovely name that. I thought Lavender is the Portuguese national plant, by the way. I saw there was a Portuguese. Monroe Hull saying coffee and brandy in the old day. Cape Town, excellent. Norman Fisser, hi, from Blue Water Bay, just round the bay. There we go. Greetings from Brighton.
Oh,
There's
fantastic.
Kat James. Kat's one of our regulars as well. She's on the History channel there on Facebook.
Super.
So I don't know if you guys are watching on Facebook or YouTube. Or, there's Keith Clark's on YouTube. Thanks, Keith. We got some of Keith punters right here. Thanks, Keith, for that.
Keith, thank you.
I've been snogging on that for the last little bit from a cold Cape Town. That's good. Maybe they're sending us some rain.
Yeah, they might do. Let's hope so.
Alta Fanamava is an absolute legend. Alta has got a heart, this huge heart. Amazing lady. Also involved with the rugby players. She knows them all as well. Darren Nash. I don't know, Darren Willie
I've got to mention Willie Schlechter.
Yes.
Willie Schlechter was at our wedding. We didn't know him before. He was a +1. That man kept the party going all night. He never left the dance floor. If you need a party, invite Willie. He's the man who'll keep it going, I tell you.
Moi.
Oh, great.
Veronica Tinley saying go from Summerwood Tennis Club.
Yes, fantastic
Nice
tennis
in
club.
Summerwood, you know.
Yes, it's lovely.
Lovely to have the tennis club people, yeah. And Cheryl Lottering as well. Monroe, how's it, Doc? It's great to see you again.
Oh, great. Nice to see you guys.
Beer Grills. Beer Grills. I don't know if that's Beer Grills. It must be the opposite. Mary Jones shivering in Cape Town. Wow, that's interesting. So they've got some cold weather there.
Yeah.
Lynn Dumpier, thank you. Good evening, Dean. Are you ready? Indeed, he is.
I am ready, Liam. Thank you.
Ex-Cape Townian, now also in PE. Good to hear that too. Leon Naidu from Durbanville.
He's my football buddy.
Leon.
Leon, he's a fit guy. He's we play in the over 50s, me and Liam.
Oh,
and
really?
He runs more than me, and that's I tell you what, he's a fit guy.
Lizole.
Lizole.
Gene.
Lizole. He's the guy we're going to talk about now with the project we got coming up. So thank you so much for your support, evereverybody. It's
fantastic.
Nice
So windy Cape Town. That's here we go. Daiga from Latvia. That is most fantastic. Hello Latvia. I don't know. I wish I knew what language or how to say hello.
Latvian. No,
Latvian.
We'll have to look that one up.
Yes, we'll have to look. Well, maybe they can tell us. Jeffrey Applewhite. Hello, Jeffrey. Right up the road. Tourism hospitality industry. Extremely excited to know Dean is settling in GQ. Absolutely.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Jeff, and I know Jeff will enjoy one of your talks at his place. He's got a place up the road here in Church Road. Marie Voges saying love these Facebook posts. Yes, and your newsletter as well, which we'll get into as well.
Yeah, busy with all that.
Yes, it's amazing that newsletter has sort of become something as well.
Yeah, no, I've got to give a nod. We mentioned my wife Danica. I mean, she's amazing. I mean, she also studied history. I mean, she likes history and football, so I knew she was the one for me. We were made for each other. She actually does a lot of work. Every Monday we send out a newsletter, This Day in History, what happened this week.
Yes.
And it goes to about 2,000 people. I'm sure Gary's going to share the link now in terms of how to sign up. It's completely free, which is fantastic.
It's great.
And that's how I got to come to PE, because Mr. Adrian Gardner was a big follower of the newsletter. And one day he phoned me up, and out of the blue, and if you know Adrian, this is how he approached it. He said, "Is that Dean Allen?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I love your stuff. I get your newsletter, but I've got a problem with you." And I said, "Oh, who is this?" And he said, "It's Adrian from Port Elizabeth." He said, "You write too much about the Western Cape. I want you to come to the Eastern Cape and tell our story."
Wow.
So isn't that amazing? So he gets the newsletter, and through that, he got to know about our work. And it's all completely free. We do it, you know, almost just as we were kind of in between jobs.
Yeah.
And from that, we've got a book, This Day in History, which is fantastic. Yeah.
I suppose we'll have to find out as well.
Danny's name is on there, of course, because she's very much part of that.
The Man and Wife project, and it looks. I love the cover because I'm a steampunk junkie.
Yeah.
And it's got a steampunk.
It is.
There's a little watch and everything.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
But I've loved it as well, and you guys are. I mean, you do write it all. It's like you said yourself and your wife write that thing, and it's amazing. I love the fact that you've taken this history, put it in your own words, and it gives that angle from your angle, you know.
No, for me, I was working at university for years. For me, history is about learning from it, you know. Rudyard Kipling said, if we don't learn from our history, what would we do?
Yeah.
I mean, the best history is remembered through story. So I'm a storyteller.
Yes.
And for me, it has to be accessible. So these little snippets of information. The interesting one, Gino, I heard that down in Cape Town they've got a big pub quiz at one of the Fireman's Arms. You've probably heard of that pub.
Yeah.
And literally, this thing's been going for years. They found out that people were getting my newsletters, and because the quizmaster was using my newsletter as a point, and they rumbled this team that were winning 2 or 3 weeks because they worked out it was from my newsletter. So the whole thing's got a life of its own. So,
even for a bunch of cheats,
I know, even for cheats. So just be careful with that. So if you want, you always got that mate who knows more than anyone, and it's lovely. You've got that. So you asked me earlier what happened this week in history. Prince William was born, of course, and now we've got Wimbledon coming.
You're not even referring to the book when you know about this.
No, it's all up there. It's all up there. This week we've got Wimbledon starting, and we experienced 2011. We had the longest ever match between John Isner and Nicholas.
Yes, was that on this day?
I think tomorrow. You look at the newsletter and you go through.
Well, the people from Kington will remember, or maybe from Summerwood Tennis Club will remember that.
What an incredible game! You know that went on, and that's why they've had to change the length of the tennis, because it went on for ages.
It was insane. We were watching till like 1 o'clock in the morning or something ridiculous.
So no, we really enjoyed doing that. It's hard work, but it's keeping us in touch with people. As I said, perhaps that even brought us here. So that's another fortuitous.
That's also to PE and Adrian Gardner doing amazing things. He's been on the show as well, and an amazing story that he's had. There we go. Big hello from Adrian Gardner, the team from Mantis Founders Lodge. And I've been out there to Founders Lodge. It is fantastic. It is
wonderful.
There was we did a function. I'm sure there was the same place out there. We just look over this beautiful valley, and it's lovely. I love the way that they've designed the place. I mean, he's always doing something. He's always got a project on the go. I know.
Adrian's one of those inspirational characters. I mean, I hope he doesn't mind me saying he's in his late 70s now, and I mean, he's got an energy. I mean, he puts myself and Gary to shame. I mean, Gary's a hard worker, and he's always on the phone to people. He's got ideas. He's an ideas man. And I'm really privileged that he saw something in me. So he picked up the phone, and when we came along, we ended up at Founders Lodge. I had my baby with me. I had my mum visiting from England. We ended up at this beautiful spot, and I remember walking out onto the lawn, and there we have 4 white rhinos in front of us, and I was just blown away. And they said, Adrian's waiting for you. I said, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Gardner's going to have to wait. There's a rhino in front of me. And I remember taking the baby and showing, and I just thought, wow. what an opportunity this is.
Yeah.
And I asked my mum, I said, what do you think, Mum? She said, I'm not really sure what's going on, but isn't this marvellous? And that's what the Eastern Cape does. It provides opportunity for people with the right spirit. And I'm a big believer in you connect with people at the right time. Sometimes it takes a while, but this has happened. I mean, I promise you, I'm sure people who follow me on social media and have seen the recent success, it's been hard for a long time. And you have to almost, like fishing. I always say, you leave the line in the water, and every now and again, somebody of significance will bite. And that was Adrian Gardner, and I'm privileged to write his story, but I'm sure we'll talk more about that.
Fantastic, yes, yeah. So you're going to be writing it over the next. This is your project now for the next little while. Maybe we should talk about that now, because it's and it's got a conservation angle as well. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, anyone who knows Adrian, he was fundamental in bringing wildlife tourism to this part of the country. When we think of South Africa, you think of the Kruger Park and the areas to the north. We had the Addo Elephant Park, but Adrian is a pioneer really in private wildlife tourism. And it's amazing how it came about. He saw that farm where the Shamwari, story grew, and basically the thing grew and grew, and he saw an opportunity to bring paying guests. As the new South Africa opened up in the 90s, guests were coming and they wanted to do something unique. And as Adrian often says, what have we got in Africa that is unique, nowhere else has got? It is our wildlife.
Of course.
And it's the big five, which is a term he uses all the time. Yeah. We've got wonderful hotels, we've got the best beaches, by the way, in the world, there's no doubt about it. But other countries also have, but we have got the wildlife. So Adrian saw that opportunity. So my remit is to look at how the Eastern Cape became a wildlife tourism destination. Of course, Adrian is central to that story, but there are so many other players as well. I mean, you've got the Folds family at Amakhala, you've got the Rushmeres at Karika, you've got these incredible kind of game reserves, and I'm sorry, I'm going to mention everybody if I can. But we also give a nod to the other things that were going on as well. Remember, hunting was a big thing in the Eastern Cape, so that's perhaps controversial, but it's something I've got to engage with, because these guys were also conservationists in many respects, because they brought animals into the area. Of
course, and there's a whole discussion about ethical hunting that could eventually happen, and because truth be told, it's like if there's no demand for something, then does it survive? It's always the case.
A farmer said to me recently, Dean, he said it comes down to this: if you put a value on something, farmers will produce it. If you don't have a value, it will go. And of course, we know now the value of animals and the fact they're being reared. It's not my thing. It's not my thing. I'd rather take a photograph of an animal than shoot it, but it's also part of African culture that I have to respect. So that's what I'm doing. And Adrian's quite surprised, because as a historian, I'm really digging. I'm going back to the start. I'm meeting people now that have inspired him, but also as being part of the bigger story. His great mentor was a guy called Dr. Ian Player, Gary Player's brother, and he was a great conservationist. And it was Ian Player that inspired Adrian to leave a legacy, and that's what he's leaving, of course, a legacy. But I also want to acknowledge other people that were part of this story. I think there's two books. I think we've got Adrian Gardner's wonderful, colourful life, which needs to be told, but also this conservation and the wildlife destination. How has this been transformed? We're looking, you can drive along the coast and it's quite incredible. You have fields that were full of sheep and cattle and maize probably 20 years ago, and now have buck, lion, rhino.
Back to the roots again.
It's almost this idea of, they call it rewilding.
Yes.
So man affects it in both ways. We're almost playing God. But it has to be done in a very careful way. No, it's exciting. I mean, look at this. So it takes me away from Matjiesfontein and sport, and now I feel I'm really doing something of significance. And as I said, I thank you to the Gardner family for giving me this invitation. Yeah,
some of the guys. Just quick look, some more comments over here while we're there. See, oh man, I don't even know where to start. There we go from Sanju. Sanju, hi doctor. It's always a doctor, eh?
Yeah,
you need to get that stethoscope.
As I explained to it, I'm not that kind of doctor, so you don't have a heart attack when I'm around. That's right.
Monroe Hull says, would you ever look back to full-time lecturing?
Good question, Momo. I miss teaching, but I also dabble with it as well. I go in and give a lot of classes at schools. I've done some online work.
And you do talks as well, which is kind of like,
what we're doing now.
It's
lecturing. I mean, lecturing, as Munro hopefully would agree, you have to be an entertainer. You have to bring your energy into a room as well. But no, I'm not missing academia. I enjoy the fact that it's given me a great grounding and to do stuff like this. But I see myself as a man who would write your story now. I'm kind of, I thought of it the other day. I'm not a hired gun, but I'm a hired pen.
Hired pen.
Have pen will travel.
Yes,
so we'll see where that leads me.
Griselle Hart also loves her history as well, and she was on the Heritage Society as well. I think she does that. What encouraged your interest in the history of Port Elizabeth?
Do you know what? I like to almost write about the underdog or the forgotten places. I mean, not the Port. I'm sorry, Griselle. I don't mean Port Elizabeth or Quebec is forgotten, but it's certainly not in the limelight like Cape Town or Johannesburg or even Durban. And every time I come here, there's a real soul to the place. And again, it's a bit like me when I arrived in the mid-90s. I feel like I can make a difference here. And I'm also very conscious. I don't want to be coming in with this blaze of glory that I'm going to tell the story. I see myself as a messenger, almost as someone who's going to spread good. And the reception I've got from the historical societies and people like Griselle and the Welcome, they're going to help me tell this story.
I love Griselle. She used to run, it was number 10, Griselle, I would say 10 Downing Street, but it was number 7 Castle Hill. Is it 7 Castle Hill? I think it was. And it was, I think it was 7 Castle Hill. It wasn't because it was the McClellans that used to, the oldest house as well.
Okay.
But I think she had the Castle Hill. I don't know, you correct me if I'm wrong, Griselle, I can't remember now, but she was definitely involved in the museums and a lovely lady. But just something that crossed my mind while you were talking about it, is that coming in to do the history of a place that sort of not a foreign place to you, but certainly not your home, would give you an advantage in that, a disadvantage, I suppose, that you haven't had years and years here, that you would have heard maybe stories and stuff about stuff, and collected information like that, but certainly would give you an angle that's not without an agenda. So you wouldn't be tied into any cultural group, any cultural thing, or any specific place, born in a certain place, so you only know about that. You would be able to look at it in a step back and look at it in a bigger way.
Yeah, that's a great point, Gino. It's fundamental, actually, probably to my success. The accent sounds like I've just got off of a plane, and so a lot of people think, well, I'm going to tell this guy, he needs to know, so that they tend to open up to me.
Wow.
And remember, I've served my apprenticeship since the mid-90s. I've been here that long. I'm a permanent resident now of South Africa. Okay. I feel South African. A lot of people know, and I'm sorry, my English friends, I supported the Springboks against England in 2019. I mean, I know. Talk about hanging at the tower. I realised that this was my place. So what you're saying is completely right. I remember in 2010, I was doing some work with the universities in Cape Town. We were commissioned by the city of Cape Town to look at the legacy of the 2010 FIFA World Cup. You remember the days of Sepp Blatter and all the money that was going around?
Oh Lord, yes. Then they were there is.
Yeah. There was lots of controversy, wasn't there? And
yes, Qatar.
Don't even go there. Russia. Yeah, no, don't even go there. I don't know where it's going to be next.
Lord.
So I was the guy that they sent to interview Danny Jordan and some of the big players because, and I remember the guys would come in and out sort of 5-minute interviews, and he'd give me almost an hour because I was he thought I probably was a little bit naive, so I'd act that naive, but I'd get that information. But no,
you sneaky hobbitses.
Sneaky. But also I think people, and I hope you do forgive me for my pronunciation and things like that, but it also, I think it does give me a slight angle in which people will go, okay, this guy's coming in, let's hear what he's got to say.
He's not on my side, he's not on their side, there's no cultural thing there. No. It's all like, okay, this guy's coming new and fresh, and we can tell him the real truth from our side.
And we're going to be doing some fundamental work in the weeks to come. We'll be talking about it now. I mean, there's a lot of controversy at the moment about renaming South Africa, the whole thing about place names. And you know, that's really controversial. We're living in Port Elizabeth, was it Quebec? It's Quebec now. It was Port Elizabeth. A lot of people don't even refer to the other name. So I've seen this opportunity of working with people and actually bringing that together. And it's an exciting project. We're going to be launching very soon called Renaming South Africa.
Yes, tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah. I was approached by some guys up from Johannesburg, but they're Eastern Cape, Xhosa people. Okay. And they said to me, Dean, you're the guy that I think that could actually have this narrative. So I'm going to be working with a guy called Lale Boy, and Lale is an incredible performer. He's a poet. He's a rapper. He looks a bit like Snoop Dogg. I hope you don't mind me mentioning that, right? But he's down with the kids, so he's trendy. He's got that thing, but he's a great heart. And what we're going to do is almost tell the history of a place from two different perspectives, and then have the conversation that we all need to have
Yes.
Not an argument, but a positive conversation. Understand your point of view and perhaps my point of view, and then we agree. I hope we'll agree that we're all South African.
Yeah.
Because this idea of renaming a place doesn't change the fundamentals, which is the service provision, you know, the way people are still living in poverty. Yet we become very obsessed with this idea of statues and names and things like that. So I'm hoping, and we're going to launch it over the next few days, so please keep an eye on the socials for that this is going to have a real impact. I've already spoken to the guys at Collegiate here in town, and they can't wait. That's a school, by the way, Paul Elizabeth. They can't wait to have us in there. And like they said, the girls will love Lally Boy because he's a good-looking guy, he's charismatic. You've got to have that showbiz kind of thing. But the message is important. So going back to your original question, I think that's easier for probably an Englishman who's invested in South Africa than perhaps an Afrikaner who perhaps will have a different kind of, even a perception of things.
Because it's almost like you're open for negotiation. Doesn't matter when it is in the timeline as well. I love that. But and like I said, politics and history and sport as well also so tied in. I always think of the Romans. Panem et circum, wasn't it? It's just, they say bread and circuses. That's what they did. They built the arenas. They built the colosseums, because if the people were watching sport, they were happy. The gladiators, bring them out.
It's what they call an opiate to the masses.
Yes.
You still see it today. I often say, and my British friends will realise this, the two things they didn't ban in England during COVID was alcohol and football specifically. So it meant we lived for our Saturdays, and we could kind of forget the woes of the world. Yes. And that's been going on since sport was invented. You go back to the Greeks and the Romans, and it's all about, you know, you look at I do a talk called, you know, the history of sport and how it actually shapes society and vice versa. Yes. And you can just bring it forward, and you look at a lens through sport, and you realise what society's like. It was either violent, it was fair, it was equal. Yes. Now, of course, we look at something like Wimbledon, where we've got equal pay, for example, for men and women. The Olympics, you've got the same number of events for men and women. Back in 1896, when the modern Olympic Games were actually introduced, do you know there were no women involved?
Really?
Because it was the Victorian days, and women, their place was in the kitchen.
Long dresses.
And it's incredible. Over 100 years, we've evolved as a society, and that is reflected in sport as well. So anybody that says to me, well, sport doesn't matter, it actually does, because it's actually how you can judge society.
Yes, and just as you were talking about rugby, these big boertjies in Stellenbosch and in South Africa playing rugby, but it's an English sport. Is that not a success of the British Empire?
Totally,
you know?
Totally.
I mean, I presume you bring it up in the book. The book is Empire War and Cricket. I mean, it's
tied in.
It's all tied in together.
I mean, the thing about Matjiesfontein, I mean, that's my number one hit.
Yes,
it sold 15,000 copies. The book has really put me on the map. I've told that story hundreds and hundreds of times. I sell it as a Downton Abbey of South Africa. Okay. It's fantastic, but the kind of characters, Cecil Rhodes, you know, Queen Victoria, Lord Kitchener, these kind of people, Rudyard Kipling, they're all featured here in South Africa because of gold and diamonds. This is where the British Empire was focused on for a time.
Wow.
And what did they do? Yes, they fought a war here, but they sent their sports teams down, because if you played together, you did business together, and eventually you were part of the empire. It was the old man's club, the gentleman's club. And I could see, and Matjiesfontein, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know Matjiesfontein, it's a quirky little place in the middle of nowhere, but it's very famous here in South Africa. Nobody had written its story. So after I'd finished my master's degree at Stellenbosch, I realised there was this idea of cricket starting somewhere. Now, we know that the first ever test match was here at St George's Park.
Okay.
By the way, PE, the first cricket match, so it is important.
There we go. Well, you know, all the settlers were here, I suppose.
Yeah, of course
they easier.
Of course they were.
Yes.
But Matjiesfontein was so important because there was a Lucille, like this, there was a Scotsman that set up.
All the Scotsmen.
They're always influential. They're always influential. But this guy was 24 years of age. He arrived 4 years before. He was working class, and he made his money through gold and diamonds. Okay. So he used cricket and sport and the building of this model Victorian town as a smokescreen for his activities. Oh. And he also bought his
What is he doing? Laundering money or something?
Well, it's insider trading and illegal diamond buying, and that's how Cecil Rhodes. Come on, Gino. That's how Cecil Rhodes got rich.
Well, I knew Cecil Rhodes wasn't particularly nice.
They were industrious, we
Yes,
can put it
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But the point is that sport was brought down as part of this almost political move to control South Africa.
Okay.
And the Brits did that. Look at India, where they play cricket today.
Yes.
You know, I mean, look at the power. Australia, they play the British sport. So
Yes.
wherever the British were, they took their games with them. But here in South Africa was my opportunity because nobody had really written.
About the cricket. About sport.
And the beauty of that book, I managed to get hold of the family archives. So there's,
Wow.
I mean, this was a people story. I could write this man's story. I saw the letters from
But
his
his
wife.
name was
James Logan.
James Logan.
James Logan.
Okay. Yeah, James Logan.
And Cecil Rhodes is on record as saying he'd only ever met 2 creators in his lifetime. Himself,
Oh, of course, yeah.
and James Douglas Logan of Matjiesfontein. So he clearly admired the man.
Yes.
So it was amazing. It was like a gift from God that I could write this story, and it put me on the map here. And every time somebody says to me, "Well, you're English, you don't really know," I say, "I went to Stellenbosch and I wrote the book of Matjiesfontein," and then straight away they go, "Fair enough, fair enough." So it gives me that credibility in terms of acceptance.
Any interesting stories you could give us from there? Just a bit of a teaser for the book, or a...
Well, a great story is I'm all about history teaching us what's happening today. So we can look for examples from the past. If we don't learn from our history, it will repeat itself. Look what's happening in in Europe at the moment with Russia and Ukraine. I mean, that's someone trying to expand an empire. We won't go there, but we can see from history this is not going to end well if that continues. So my thing is looking from examples from what happened at Matjiesfontein to actually go into how we can relate to today in South Africa. So James Logan, wonderful story. He was a railwayman and he made his money from basically having the restaurants along the railway network because there was no such thing as a dining car in those days. You see, you'd have to stop 20 minutes, eat your dinner, pay the price, and get back on. Now, what do they say about Scotsmen? Do you know? You know what this?
Well, I haven't got deep pockets.
Deep pockets,
That's
deep
right.
pockets. So they say James Logan served this soup so hot that they couldn't finish it in time, and it went back in the pot, which was brilliant. But
Look at that, Lucy.
yeah, sorry about that. But that was one of the folklore. But he actually made his money because he knew someone in the government, and his name was James Sidwright, and he was Cecil Rhodes' man who gave away the government contract.
Tenders.
It didn't go out to tender.
Look at that.
These 2 Scotsmen basically were pals, and he got 18-year deal of all the railway refreshment facilities. So in 1893, the James Logan contract controversy brought down Cecil Rhodes' government because a man called J.X. Merriman said, "Enough's enough. These men have their fingers in the pot."
Okay.
So if you think about that, it's nepotism.
course.
We've just gone through it now with Jacob Zuma and the doctors.
Of course.
These guys learned from the best, which is from the colonials.
Tenderpreneurs. It started early.
But of course, my relationship with Matjiesfontein goes beyond the story. Gary, have you got the video?
Yes, you've got the video. Let's have a quick squiz at the video. Let's see what he's got.
Right.
As do you. And more backslapping. Now then, you may remember we told you recently about a man called Dean Allen who's established links with a township in South Africa.
Their football team was enthusiastic but couldn't play in their local league because they had no equipment. Well, Dean is a keen Bristol City fan, and their kit man Roger Barton sorted him out with shirts, socks and shorts.
That's right, and then he took them to Matjiesfontein, which is near Cape Town, and he's just returned with this film of his trip.
They look very much the part, just like any other team lining up for the cameras. But this is the first time these players have ever had their own complete kit. They come from here, Matjiesfontein, and this is what the tourists see when they come to this beautiful outpost of empire. A highlight stop for the blue train taking the rich across the country. But they see only one half of the picture. This is the real Matjiesfontein, the other side of the tracks. A growing community of over 300 people, most living near the poverty line. Their passion football, their facilities basic. Every evening they turn out to play, practice or watch. I was delighted to present the children of the primary school with their kit.
Oh, that's very beautiful, man. I never seen a shirt in South Africa, a shirt like that, as white as that. So I think the kids really appreciate what Bristol City has done for them. They've never been played in any of these shirts before. They haven't got a regular soccer set. I think that is very good for Bristol City to sponsor us with that jerseys. I think the kids is very proud of it.
The senior team seem pretty pleased too.
Our people of the soccer players are very happy with the new t-shirts and playing in the new kit.
With opposition like this around, you need all the help you can get. The Haka not confined to rugby. Matjiesfontein prefer to gather for the Lord's Prayer. They played 3 matches while I was there. They won the lot.
First goal, Matjiesfontein, 1-0.
Thanks to Bristol City, they can now play in the local league for the first time. Maybe one day one of the Matjiesfontein players will pull on a Bristol City shirt at Ashton Gate. Dean Allen for PBC Points West in Matjiesfontein, South Africa.
Finally,
That was your team, the Bristol.
That was quite fortuitous. I knew the goalkeeper played at the time, and you know the lads there. You know they never lost for 3 years wearing those shirts, which is quite incredible. Which is different from the real team. We're lucky if we go 3 weeks, 3 games, should I say, without losing.
Yeah.
But no, it was amazing to be able to give something, and it reminded me of the power of sport today. You know, just by giving them the same colour jerseys, they could play in a league, and that brought the community together. It gave them a focus for the weekend when they wouldn't go off and do other stuff. And also, you know, that was the other side of the tracks. The hotel at Matjiesfontein is what normally generates the interest in business.
Okay.
But for me, the guy that really is behind Matjiesfontein's success was a man named David Rawdon. And David Rawdon bought Matjiesfontein in 1968 and brought it back to its former glory. He was famous for the Marine Hotel, Lanzarote and Stellenbosch.
Wow.
Amazing man. And he said to me, Dean, you write a book about this place and the breakfasts on me. And that's why it took me 10 years to write it.
Did you get breakfast?
But my relationship with the place grew, and that's where we got married. We got married on the 26th of February, which was lovely. And I managed to persuade Danny to come there, and no, it was great. We had 35 of our closest friends, and it felt like the journey was completed for now anyway, and it was time now to move somewhere else, you know.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, because you said 15,000 copies. That's amazing.
It's a bestseller in South Africa, which is incredible.
And I love that idea of showing off the real story behind it as well. You try and get that real feel, you know.
Yeah, without a doubt. No, it's an incredible story, and then there's a lot of folklore around the whole town and everything. But I say to people, the real story is even more amazing. Yeah. This guy is a Donald Trump, a Boris Johnson, someone who knows how to play the media and be a personality and those kind of things. And I think we can learn so much. But the beauty of that book is it came from a PhD, so it means that it was researched to a certain level, but I had to write it for an audience, entertainment. And as I say, if you ever get the chance, please come and hear me speak, and I tell that story, and people love it because they can't believe it. And this is somewhere in South Africa, and I believe, Gino, they'll make a movie out of it one day because it's got everything. It's a period drama waiting to happen.
Well, maybe we'll speak to our Stuart Forrest. We've had him on the show doing an animated version.
Please do.
And I mean that was just the first though. So obviously you've moved on, and when you moved now to PE, tell us about just briefly now how that came about. You had Adrian also helping you there as well, but the books as well. The Eastern Cape generally.
No, what happened really? We actually flew down just before COVID. Yeah. We came back to South Africa, and this was where we were going to stay. And then, of course, our world changed. As everybody knows, COVID started. But here in South Africa, we had one of the hardest lockdowns in the world. And Danny, thankfully, my wife now, she said, listen, we've got to get out of Cape Town. Let's get to the country. We didn't know it was going to last for 6 months, let alone 6 weeks, you know. So
during a hard lockdown, you actually...
We moved. We were footloose and fancy free. Do you know where we ended up? We ended up on the top of... the map of Africa, wilderness, this beautiful garden route. We had the ocean, we had everything. We turned into kind of hippies for 6 months, you know.
Really?
We had the most incredible experience, and we realised that we didn't have to chase anything anymore. We were in the most beautiful part of probably the world, or certainly South Africa, and opportunities presented themselves. One of the opportunities I'm sure we'll talk about is I got to interview the Springbok players, the rugby players.
Oh yes.
And during COVID, those were the kind of things that presented themselves, because I was one of the first people who got hold of Zoom and were doing online presentations.
Yes.
So the Players Fund actually said to me, Dean, would you help promote our charity?
I remember they were doing that. Yes.
Yeah, the Players Fund, for anybody who doesn't know, they're the registered charity here in South Africa who support injured rugby players.
Yes.
And all the top level guys back this charity. So there I was in Wilderness on my little iPhone, interviewing some of the greatest names in South African rugby history. You know, people like Scout Berger, Brian Habana, Jake White, of course, the management, Victor Matfield, you name it, we did it. So I understand how you put these kind of things together. So you talk about pressured moments. For me, every Thursday night was the thing. I think we've got a clip there, Gary.
We've got a clip of some of the rugby players. He's busy doing it now, so we can chat about it. But let's talk about COVID while we're here as well. And so that was obviously one of the projects that you did.
Yeah.
And I mean, your income stream was probably coming from speaking engagements.
Well, of course, and we were now an illegal industry because you couldn't actually.
Same as me.
Of course you were. We couldn't generate an income because we didn't have an audience.
Yeah.
And our income literally disappeared, and so I decided to do something worthwhile, which was actually to look at the comparison. Again, being a historian, thinking history should teach us about where we are now in the future. We looked at something called the Spanish flu, which happened, I'm sure you know, in
1920s.
1918 to 1920 was at its heart. And we'd gone through this before as a human race. And not only that, probably up to 100 million people died as a result of the Spanish flu. It's still, as we speak, the world's worst natural disaster. So it's hard to explain to children who are having to wear masks, who can't go to school. But some of the comfort is we've gone through this before and we'll go through it again and we will get through this.
Yeah, okay.
So two wrongs don't make a right, there's the saying. But in this case, a lot of our governments, our scientists took information from the Spanish flu, that incident that took there, and actually learned of how to deal with it now. And we're looking at the different waves and stuff that we're experiencing now. But an interesting story, one of my favourite stories, does anybody know why it was called the Spanish flu?
No, I don't. Was it the Spaniards that started it all, in it?
Well, that's what the Americans wanted to blame, because it started in an American army camp in Kansas. And it was the soldiers who moved to Europe for the First World War spread this thing. Now, of course, it's tourists and people travelling for business. Then it was World War I that spread this thing around the globe. The Spanish, bless them, who were neutral in the First World War, basically were reporting about this so-called flu quite openly, that one of the first people to get it was Alfonso XIII, their king. So they talked about this flu. Now, straight away, the British and the Americans could see their opportunity. They pointed at the Spanish and said, it's the Spanish flu.
Oh, man.
And do you know what the Spanish call it? They call it the French flu because they didn't want the label.
It's the French flu.
It's the French's fault, you know, but
it's not us, it is
you can imagine
it's a British flu. It's terrible.
It's a conversation, but it just shows you the political comparisons we have today. You know how America, nobody wanted to blame.
China.
Look at us in South Africa. We reported this latest strain and we got the blame. I mean, it's just incredible.
The South African flu.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
But so that allowed me to actually do something. And next thing, I'm doing talks to Japan, the Philippines, to America. We had this thing, and I wasn't a medical expert, but I could do comparisons in terms of what was happening then and what's happening now. And also, the main thing is we will get through this, as we are doing now. You know, we're not thankfully, we're still wearing masks in South Africa, but unfortunately, we are coming through it now. Our kids are going back to school. So I did that on top of the hill in the middle of nowhere. And the other thing was, as I said, the rugby interview. So I kept myself busy. But to answer your question about the book, that's after lockdown finished. A lovely lady called Lisa Kerr, who runs the Victoria Manor in Craddock. Dear old Craddock.
There's a couple of roads there. Is that the one with the whole street full of houses? Is that the one? And is that the Victoria Hotel on the side?
It is. We have got a picture somewhere, Gary.
I love it.
We've got a picture of Market Street somewhere of Craddock.
Oh, Gary's busy with his headphones.
He's busy
doing his thing there.
The pictures will come in a minute.
Yes, the pictures will be there. But no, I've been there. We've actually stayed there. We did a gig in the town hall, and I think that burnt down. Guys, I don't know. You can let us know, but I think that town hall burnt down.
You're thinking about Kilmarnie, Queenstown?
Was it Queenstown town?
Queenstown.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if Craddock's town also.
No,
also like that.
Craddock, well, it's got a lot of problems, Craddock. I always say the potholes are as big as the welcome in Craddock. 'Cause they've got potholes, you have to lift your car out of the thing. But no, to go back to it, Lisa said, why don't you, what you did with Matjiesfontein, you did a lot of stories, you put the place on the map. Would you not come to Craddock? So we ended up, never invite Dean and his family because we were going for 2 weeks. We ended up staying for 2 months. and it was lovely because I realised that there was so much history in the Eastern Cape, so it brought me back. And then I started to travel to all these little dorpies and things like that. So when the pictures come up, I'll explain. We've got so many wonderful images within the book, and I wanted to call it Frontierland because I can see some of the questions. Why did you move to Port Elizabeth? Well, because this is the frontier. This is really where the country was moulded. I mean, the Great Fish River is just up the road.
Just there.
And this is where the Europeans and the Xhosa nation and the poor old Khoisan were kicked out, but it was all fought along the frontier.
So interesting, that history as well.
As a historian, this is fantastic.
Oh, there we go. This
is Matjiesfontein.
So Matjiesfontein.
This is Matjiesfontein. So that's Mr. and Mrs. Allen.
That's all right.
Back in February. That's
nice.
That's the love of my life, Danny. She's my rock, and I know she's watching there with little Daniela in the...
Daniela as well, yes, which we'll talk about in a little while. There we go.
There's the book that's still on the shelf, which is, I don't care what any author says, when you still want to look for your book in the bookshops.
Yes,
it gives you a buzz. It gives you a buzz. So, no, that was great. I mean, Jenny Twist Williams, the book lady, said to me, Dean, if you sell 2,000 copies, but we've got up to 15,000 now, and there's this day in history, which is obviously what we're working with at the moment. But Frontierland, all the pictures, included those on the cover, I've taken with my iPhone. So my designer says, Dean, won't you get a proper camera? But to be quite honest, it's a great picture. They're beautiful, aren't they?
It's a lovely picture, I would say. Designer, no ways. I'm not spending that money.
Yeah, no, I'm glad
Where's that road? Where's that road?
So the road on the left is near, it's going up towards Craffranet, and the one on the right, that's near Lady Grey. And there's a third book coming out, volume 3, and that's going to be at the Valley of Desolation near Craffranet. So for me, it had to be a picture book. It's not a heavy book. It's not an academic book. It's going to these little towns places that were forgotten. Yeah. And you go to a place like Stainsburg or Hofmeyr, and there was tumbleweed going through the road. There was nothing there, but you look, and the buildings are magnificent, but they just forgotten and derelict. And I thought, do you know what? Somebody needs to tell their story. And that's what I do in these books. I try to give the place a book.
And you find, have you been through a lot of places? I mean, I know that places like Prince Albert and Greyton and those places in the Western Cape, they've really taken a regeneration. Look at that. There we go.
Now here's a man who's this is Lord Charles Somerset. Ironically enough, I'm from Somerset, but this man was the Cape Governor between 1814 and 1826, and he's the man who was responsible for bringing all the Englishmen down here. So he encouraged the 1820 settlers, and we know they're important in this part of the world. And as you can see, there are alternative pictures I try to use. I mean, can you imagine in 1820, Gino, being on a boat from a Bristol or a London? You don't know where you're coming. You're desperate. You're with your family. You get dumped in the middle of the Eastern Cape. And I tell you what, the animals are the least of your worries because you've got warrior tribes. You don't know how you're going to grow your food, and you are left to fend for yourself.
Dumped out.
These are incredible people. So these kind of stories, I mean, it just lends itself to wonderful history.
It is.
But remember, you've got opposition. This is Chief Sandile, one of the great Xhosa chiefs. Now, there were 9 frontier wars fought in this area. And as you know, when you explore, you can still see the forts, you can still visit these battlegrounds. So for a historian like me, I can still sense that tension in the air. And it means it's even more important. We're talking about this project I'm doing with my Xhosa friends, that we're going to look at our shared history and appreciate that. Because at the end of the day, this is our land and we've all fought over it. You know, and I've got to be very respectful for everyone's kind of
I think
story.
Like we were saying, politics and history are interwoven. I mean, the history that I learned at school was just one-dimensional. You know, it was that one-sided history. And it's so this kind of thing interests me so much, to find out what the Xhosa were doing. Where did what was their plan? How did they respond You know, and a real feel, you know, because history is real.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, when you learn it at school, sometimes you just feel it, you wash over it. But it's real people.
You need to tell the stories, and remember, the past is what's happened. History is what historians have written.
Yeah.
And generally, it's people like myself, you know, white middle-aged men that have written this story from their own perspective.
Yes.
And it's important that the other different communities in South Africa, they record their history in different ways.
Yeah.
Often it's oral, it's not written down.
Okay.
So their history tends to not be overlooked. But now, thankfully, in the new South Africa, we're trying to encompass everybody's story.
Mm.
And remember, it's not even a case of who was here first, because if that's the argument, then our Khoisan, the hunter-gatherers, they were here first. You know, we're all interlopers into this beautiful country we call South Africa.
Yeah.
So this tension that sometimes we feel when we rename places and we look at ownership and land rights, of course, it is really problematic. But I believe, hopefully, if I can just do a little bit to explain the past and highlight, not in an academic way, not in a serious way, but highlight that these are true human stories, then people can relate to that. And perhaps they can approach them with less hostility and a little bit of softness. This, by the way, is where I was inspired. This was the map of Africa. This is Wilderness Beach, which is the Western Cape. And this is where we were privileged enough to spend 6 months of the lockdown. You can imagine, I didn't want lockdown to end. I used to run the fields, I swam in the sea. I was like Huckleberry Finn, I tell you. I was like, it was wonderful.
Damn you, Dean!
I know, I'm sorry. This is Market Street. This is Craddock. This is what inspired me. Lisa Kerr and her mum Sandra Antrobus, they're wonderful people. You find that in these little towns. This is a street as it would have looked in the 1840s and 1850s when Craddock was the centre of the routes to the north. And these houses, each one has their own story. Would you believe there's a house there where the first ever Victoria Cross winner, William Folds, lived? You can stay in that house. There's another house called the Lion Cottage, and this is where a Danish family lived back in the 1850s. And you know how they made the money? They used to capture wild animals, lions specifically, and send them back to the zoos of Europe. Can you? So as a historian, I can walk that street and tell people the stories. It's fantastic.
Craddock, right in the middle of the Eastern Cape.
And you can see I get everywhere.
Ooh, dangerous.
Yeah, I know. Don't let me loose because I'll get up on the roof. That's the Moederkerk, or the Mother Church of Craddock. That was built in 1868. It took 3 years to build. Do you know how much it cost? Have a guess. £35,000, which was a lot of money in those days.
That is plenty for them.
And it was actually built on a copy or plans of St Martin's in the Field at Trafalgar Square, which is quite incredible. They say that the Dominie, or the vicar, had an English wife, and when he gave her the choice of the plan, she went for the English design. So any of my London friends, you can probably recognise that. It
looks more like a church, she would have said.
Quite magnificent. But this place, Bedford. Now, Bedford is the story of a town that really has given me hope, because Bedford, unlike a lot of the places, has regenerated itself. It's come back to life. And do you know why? Because of a school. Education, for me, is the most important thing in the future of South Africa or any country. And because Bedford has got a successful school, the young people have moved back to this community, and the town is flourishing.
Wow.
So, and you can see that pattern.
Town. That's fantastic news.
I mean, here in Quebec, we've got wonderful schools, Grey, Collegiate, Pearson. We've got these wonderful schools. As long as our schools remain healthy, this town will have a future. That is the key to it, really. There is the school itself. People travel from as far as Somerset East, which is, an hour's drive to go to this school. And now it means that young design. People are actually, and the town is developed. So as I travelled the area, Gino, I could see a pattern. I could see that I wasn't just talking about doom and gloom. I could actually see seeds of hope. Growth. Where towns, apparently Bedford back in 2000s, it was a place you just drove through. It was also rack and ruin. But local people believe in the place and started to invest in it. There's also a garden festival there, which means that everybody looks after their garden. So everybody looks spick and span.
So they sell flowers and seeds and plants.
Well, no, they basically, there's a garden show. So it means your garden
is on show. Oh my word! Well, they should add a bit of wine to that, or they'll be like a.
But I think this picture, anybody I mean, it's iconic of the
know where that is,
Transky.
yes.
Come on, where is it?
Not the hole in the wall. It's Morgan Bay.
No, the big one, Port St. John's.
Port St. John's. Okay,
Port
well,
St. John's.
Morgan Bay is very similar. It's also always a cow on the beach.
Always. And this is, I didn't have to wait for this cow. You literally have to push them out the way to get to the sea. Climb out. It's a beautiful place, but it's nearest you can get to the Caribbean in South Africa. I'm sure there's that kind of haze of Dakar in the air. Everybody's kind of laid back. But again, a colonial kind of place that's gone through transition. But for me, the Transkei and these wide open areas, I think the next picture you can see how people live.
Oh, yeah.
Now for me...
It's driving through the Transkei, that's what you see.
That's what you see. Look at the space that people live. Incredible. They live a simple life, but a very happy life. Yeah. Now imagine a lot of these people have to come to the cities, Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban, and live on top of each other in the settlements. How they do that, and how they don't turn on each other in bigger numbers, I do not know. Yeah. So it shows the incredible pride that these people must have. And only by travelling into these rural areas was I getting a sense of that. Yeah. And you know the beautiful thing, Gino? Now I'm getting approached by these communities to start telling some of their stories and be the mouthpiece of that. In fact,
I would love to hear. to hear their stories. Yeah.
No, there's the coming up, and I hope they don't mind mentioning it, but the Makoma, Chief Makoma, is 150th anniversary of his death. The Makoma family have approached me to speak at the celebration in September, which is quite humbling. I think the lady in charge of the tribe there, the clan, she's a bit of a follower on Facebook, and she said to her daughter and her niece, find this man, he must come and speak at our celebration.
Oh man, that's fantastic.
Which is amazing, isn't it?
Yes,
that's the Eastern Cape
community.
Yeah, and
I love that.
And I will sit back and I will listen and I will observe, observe and be a vessel for their information.
For sure.
Not impose my view. This is Kilmarnie or Queenstown, where they had the fire.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about this is the town hall. The interesting thing about Kilmarnie here is, if you can put the next one up, please. Yeah. Queenstown is designed in a hexagon.
Yes, the Hexagon Hotel.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
You can imagine driving around there. You're always turning sort of right or left. But that was designed back in the frontier days for almost the lager mentality. It means you defend the centre of the town. And when you realise this, you think, okay, you're touching history. And again, Kilmarnie, Queenstown, these are the two names that are being contested at the moment. And we have to appreciate the different history that this represents. Makanda, just up the road, Grahamstown, of course.
It's King Williamstown as well.
So for me it's fundamental. These guys, I've just got to give these a mention. Wonderful. This is in a place called Uchi. Yugi, but I say Uchi.
Uchi, okay.
That man, a Scotsman, again the Scots again in South Africa. That's William Murray, and he founded Uchi because it reminded him of the river in Aberdeenshire. Yeah. And these two guys, I wandered up to the church as I did, and they had such pride. And the guy on the right said to me, Dean, will you just come in? And I took pictures. And he said, my great-great-grandfather brought William Murray to this area and founded this area. Wow. So I realised that the local communities have so much pride for this as well.
And they know the history as well. Was that Murray there in the corner?
That's Murray in the corner. So he looks a wily old boy, doesn't he?
Does he? Interesting little hairstyle.
Lovely story here. A place called Sturkspreid. And these wonderful people. For me, it's all about the people.
Sturkstrom and Sturkspreid.
Sturkspreid, right up there in the borderland. And these lovely people, Chris and Annerie Oosthuizen, they founded the school in Sturkspreid. They've given the community, through their own pocket and hard work, they've given the community hope. Do you know that doctors and lawyers and airline pilots have come from this school? Wow. It's in the middle of nowhere. And these are the kind of stories I wanted to tell. And these are inspirational, these kind of people, which is amazing. So these are the stories that appear in Frontierland.
But that's your friendly South African vibe. That's totally, and then the Eastern Cape is integral.
Do you recognise that young man?
Oh yes, that looks like Nelson.
That's Nelson Mandela, the University of Fort Hare, where he was only for a year before he fled up to Johannesburg, because you know why? They were trying to get him married off. They were going to try to get young Nelson married off. He didn't want none of that. So he went off to Johannesburg. But the University of Fort Hare, again, it comes back to education. Alice, the town of Alice, which they're talking about renaming Makoma. Look at the timing again. Is fundamental, of course, to Eastern Cape education. So for me, just to visit these towns and get that kind of different vibe. And no, for me,
while we got these pictures, as well, we can put maybe some comments too while we're going renaming. Oh, there we go.
This is it. Now I just got to show you now. That's my friend Lally. Now, I mean, look at how cool does he look. He's my friend. He's the South African Snoop Dogg, as you can see.
Yeah, I can see that.
But Lally will come at this history from a different perspective.
Is he from here?
He's from here. He's from the Eastern Cape.
Okay.
So for the Makoma celebration, Lally's going to come down and we're going to visit the family and we're going to tell some stories. And for me, what an education. I'm just going to listen to these people. So as you can see, it's a positive discussion about our shared history and culture, because we share this history, we share this culture.
And you know, almost everybody is an immigrant. You know, and there's so many countries in the world that America particularly is always blowing that trumpet of the fact that they're a country of immigrants, and you have to include everybody in that conversation, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I hope people will embrace this idea. I think it's something new. I'm so fortunate to work with these guys. It's going to be quite a learning curve for me, but to take this to schools and to corporates as well. I mean, everybody's talking about transformation. Yeah. I think it's perhaps if we can be the vehicle to take this into firms, you know, banks and schools and colleges, and so we can have
open
this
that conversation.
Open it. For me, it's all about talking.
I mean, what's happened to us here as well, and it largely is the fact that nobody really thought any of this was going to happen, or they don't really get involved, and if you don't get involved, you've got no say. You know, in the end, it's like voting, I suppose. Yeah. So open those conversations before it even happens. Super. Let's talk about it. Yeah, it's totally right. Let's have a look at some of the. Look at you.
There I am again. Look at this. This was an interesting one. This is at dear old Dale College in King Williamstown, or CODS as it's called now.
Oh, there are a lot of Dale guys online. I'm
sure. Hello to the Dale College guys and my good friend Garth Shaw, who's done a fantastic job as the headmaster there. Okay. Do you know, Garth said to me, talk about a stitch up, he said, Dean, he said, would you come and speak to the boys? They need cheering up. And I said, well, what's happened? Would you believe that day that I spoke, that the government said that school sport was banned because of COVID? Oh. That Saturday they were going to play their big match against Queenstown.
Queen's
College. And so these guys were sitting thinking, I don't care what you say to me. Yeah. But I hope, I said to them, listen guys, we will come through this. We've got to look at our history. But do you know what? They wore that badge with pride. I mean, look at that for a backdrop. Yeah. But that's one of those schools which has colonial, almost European, history. But now 98% are Xhosa or African at that school. Yeah. So they're embracing the new. And transformation is important for me. Yeah. And Garth understands that. One of the things I was asked to speak at the Kingswood College Transformation Day, which was quite a privilege. Yeah. And the message I left them with through sport, I said, if kids want to play soccer and basketball, give them that. Yes. Because at the moment they're leaving schools because they're playing rugby and cricket and other stuff. Give them the sports they want to play. Yeah. That's transformation. Yeah. That's about culture. That's about respecting where their heroes are, their role models.
And of course, if they love the sport, they're going to play it. I mean, it's like my music, the music thing. I love drums. I play drums. I want to play drums all the time. It's true. There's
the map. Okay. So literally, like the song says, I've been everywhere, man. You know.
Yes.
It's I've been all around this. These are just for the first two books. The gaps are filled in volume 3. Wow, okay. My mission was to go to the most obscure little places I could find. As you can see, Port Elizabeth, Quebec, and East London. Yeah. I've kind of left them for other books. Yes, okay. I will do my work while I'm here. But the smaller towns, the Aberdeens. Yeah, Aberdeen. There's another Scottish connection.
Aberdeen.
New Bethesda.
Lucy. You're still watching Lucy.
Lucy, that's for you. For me, it's an incredible diverse province which has English, Afrikaans, Xhosa. You can see the influence of the Khoisan. Yes. You can see all these different influences through the language, through the buildings, through
the fish. The mix. That was frontier land.
Frontier land. And as you drive around, it says frontier country on the signs, doesn't it? So that was always going to be the idea for the book. So
let's have a look at some of the comments before we fall behind too far. Yeah. We've got, I see Chantal Abel. Is it good evening, guys? Sending blessings. Just love Ginos Spot, making a difference in our city. I hope so, Chantal. Loving the people. Thank you, Dr. Dean. Matjiesfontein was a special time. Paul Thompson.
It was. He was my captain on the cricket pitch. He won't pick me again. I was awful that day.
Yes,
That's another story.
I believe so. There was some comments earlier about your cricketing skills.
I talk a good game. I'm not necessarily as good.
I saw Garth Webster on as well, also saying, because you played a bit of cricket himself. Willie Shirts there as well. Veronica Tinley from the Summerwood. Yes, we've had that with that Summerwood buddies. Mariana Lawrence, I see Mariana there too. She's a lovely lady. Also, has been involved in radio as well. Let's see, who else have we got here? I see Bronwyn Leashing, lived in Poole, Dorset for 15 years, so it's great to hear. Brit accent.
Yeah, well, I taught, and she'll understand this, I taught at Bournemouth University for 4 years.
Wow, okay.
I went back there between 2015 and 2019. The money was good. I even bought a new car, but I was miserable. I missed South Africa. I missed the sunshine. Bournemouth's beautiful, but then it was no Cape Town. You know, it was no King's Beach.
Yes.
And I realised, how long have you been in South Africa? I've been here since the mid-90s, and I flirted with other places. I went to Australia for a year.
Had a look.
Most overrated country in the world.
Well, there are a lot of South Africans. There's a lot of competition with South Africans and Australians, I tell you.
Yeah.
Willem Heckroot, the guide must be. That's it. The guides are historians. Absolutely, Willem. You're quite right, and if you're a guide, you've got to know that history of that place.
Very much so.
Blisteringly hot day, and where's Ulster? What did you say? I don't know. Is that Ulster?
In Ulchester, UK. No, they're having some wonderful weather over in England.
Summer solstice.
But you know Wimbledon's starting soon, so they'll all break. It'll start raining. There's no rain dance in Wimbledon. You know that. Neil Radford played for England, cricketer.
Wow, Neil Radford. I know the name
nice
as well.
Nice to see you, Neil. Thank you.
Fantastic. Murray Gardner. Hello, Murray. From Austin, Texas.
So Murray is Adrian's son, and they just travelled back to their other home, which is in Texas. So nice to see you, the Gardner family.
Lovely.
So thank you.
First Soul Sister. There we go. Watching from the UK as well.
Thank you. Thank
Stuart Potgieter watching from the USA. I always confuse him with Stuart Potgieter, this photography guy. Stuart, I know who you are now.
Thank you. Someone said, don't remember the ribbons. I will remember those.
Ribbons,
Yeah.
yes.
There's so many people in this conservation story. I promise you, I'll try my best. If anybody's got any suggestions, please send them in, because I'll try to get to all the people that played a role in this story.
Yes, thanks, Samantha. Nice to have you on as well. Then.
Yeah.
Said about Barry Richards and Brian McMullen.
Yeah, mixing with the cricket royalty.
Look at you.
Yes.
Barry Richards too.
Brian bought the book Empire, War and Cricket, and as I delivered to him, we were going through on the way, even before we got to the Eastern Cape, our spirits were lifted. We were going through Knysna, and dear Brian McMillan, as you know, one of South Africa's greatest all-rounders, I was just going to deliver him the book. He said, well, hang around, Barry Richards is coming for dinner.
He stays up there in Knysna.
So there I am, I'm having dinner with all the cricket royalty. So I mean, I just thought, you know what, this is a great move. This.
Oh, lovely. Well, I'm sure they'll know all the players that were on the Gino Spot a little while ago. We had the Triple Crown, 8 of them in the studio with us, so you can have a look at that too.
But before we go any further, Gary, can we turn the tides? I want to ask Gino a few questions because he's asking me too many questions.
Oh, really?
I'm going to just because I'm used to doing interviews, you see. So I'm going to now, and I know
Gary warned me about this story.
He doesn't know what I'm going to ask. They're not bad.
Okay.
There's a couple of things I wanted to.
First, Master's like a friend. You don't have any friends.
I tell you what, I hope I didn't look like that creature. It was wonderful, wasn't it? But, I'm going to start with an easy one, and it's got to be the right answer, because there is a right answer. Elvis or the Beatles?
Beatles.
That's the wrong answer.
Beatles. I've got the Beatles. It's behind you there. You can see.
But he was called the King.
Yeah, he was called the King.
He was called the King. There was no one else like the King. All right, we'll agree to disagree on that one.
Beatles or the Stones?
You know, Beatles or Stones? I'll take Stones over Beatles.
Listen, I've been to Gracelands twice. There's no one like Elvis. You know, I mean.
No, look, I can get Elvis. You know, and to be honest, the first record I ever bought was an Elvis record.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll give you that.
No, he was a frontier's man. He was there at the start.
Yes, he was.
Second question.
Yes.
Your most embarrassing moment on stage in front of an audience?
Oh, I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but look, there've been quite a few of them. Okay, quite a few times, but I remember the one, and it wasn't so much embarrassment as because you always get through. You know, when you're on a stage, there's always a way
You wing it.
to wing it through. There was ones where I couldn't wing it through, and one of my the pegs on my drum stool. I was playing drums with the band. One of the pegs at the back fell off, so I fell backwards. And my legs went up and I fell off the stage and there was nothing I could do. but most embarrassing or most terrifying thing on stage is when you get distracted. It doesn't happen often, but man, if you go blank, like there are moments where it can be 10 seconds
Feels like
that you're just trying to think what you're supposed to be saying. And I'll never forget, I was doing a character on stage. It was in front of 700 people or 800 people at the Baxter Theatre, triple tier theatre. It was amazing at the Jive Funny Fest. And I was looking at this audience and they were so interesting. There was a whole bunch of interesting people and my mind started to wander. I told a joke and I got a laugh for the punchline, but I didn't realize what I just said. And so it was literally just, my mind was just putting the words out there. And I got this laugh and I thought, hell, where am I? What did I say? And for about 10 seconds, there was just terror. and I somehow scrambled to the end of my script and found a place and then I found my way back and finally made it through, but it was terrifying.
As a comedian, are you on autopilot? Because when I give talks, people say, how do you remember all the dates? How do you keep the narrative going? But you go into a zone, don't you?
Yes, there's an element, there is an element of autopilot and in that situation, it was almost all went too far into the autopilot and I wasn't concentrating. That was terrifying.
No, well, that's not too bad. And I think I can imagine you kind of winging it. The third question, and it's a little bit more serious, but I want you to think about this. If we could resurrect the great man, Nelson Mandela, if we could bring him back for 5 minutes, how would you report the current state of South Africa to him?
Oof. I said, needs you back, man. Needs you back.
Needs you back.
I tell you what, there was something about Mandela that was uniting. It was just a unity that he brought to everybody. Everybody sort of liked him in some way. He was a people person. He just, you almost knew his integrity was intact always, and he wasn't scared to say when he was wrong either. So I'd say, buddy, we need you back, or who do we go to, or who are your guys? You know, who did you go to when you were here?
We certainly miss him, that's for sure. But I think I don't know about you, but I'm a positive person. I'm glass half full. I think we've got some incredible people in this country.
Yeah, of course we have. We've got those Mandelas. They're all here. We've just got to find them. Then dig them out. Where are these guys? Where are they hiding?
Yeah, he's the inspiration. Well, there you are. I let you off quite easily.
You did it. It wasn't too bad at all.
I tried to keep it quite clean.
Hell's bells.
No.
Oh man.
No.
And okay, so Gary's got a rugby video. Rugby video. He's written rugby.
So I'm assuming this will be the Springbok interviews that I did.
That you did. So you interviewed all the World Cup team?
The 2007 World Cup team, really, and it was amazing. You talk about pressured moments.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine, we're doing this live. I had literally a tiny little iPhone, and I was doing this through. And a funny story before you see the clip. We did such a good job of it, and we got such a following that SuperSport, which is the big satellite sports channel here, got to hear of it, and I got a phone call at 9:45 at night from their head of operations saying, "Is that Dean Allen?" I said, "Yes." He said, "We hear you're running a TV station." And I said, "I beg your pardon." And he said, he said, "We'll allow you to interview these players for now." I said, "I promise you." I said, "I'm going to be no threat." I literally was using my iPhone, but it was wonderful. We did it for the charity. We did eight episodes of it over 2 months, and I promise you, it was nerve-wracking, but it's fantastic. What a privilege! And these men, all of them, were wonderful, wonderful human beings. I used to phone them up a week before the interview to get to know them, and not once really did we talk about rugby. It was all about their situation because they were stuck at home as well. And I swear that the South African audience would tune in just to see how they lived and what was in the background. And you saw kids running past and all this because it was real, wasn't it? That time.
Yeah.
So if you can put that
everybody
up.
was in the same boat.
the winning goal, of course, and then we've got Osterrand. So let's start off with the captain and introduce him here. Good evening, Francois Pienaar. How are you, my friend?
Dean, good evening to you and good evening to everybody that have signed up. But the world didn't know how good that team was, basically because we just came out of isolation and we had a tough patch to find our culture. Andre Joubert, the Rolls Royce of fullbacks. I can go through that team. Osterrand, double World Cup winner, an insane player. Mark Andrews was just in Kobus Wiese, Ruben Kruger, then Van der Westhuizen. That team was just a fantastic team.
We've also got the man that kept you all under control at that time, the team manager, Mornay du Plessis. Mornay, are you in the room? Have we got you live and hooked up?
Again, thank you for the opportunity and to be the 95 team dedicating also their efforts towards fundraising, thanks to the 95 guys and Francois and the team.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to do this, and as you said, it's a wonderful sport, rugby, but it comes with its challenges, of course. And I think what the Players Fund do, it's invaluable. So I think we've spoken to various parts of Cape Town. We're now going to go to the most lovely part of South Africa, of course, the wonderful Free State. Us, are you in the room, my friend? Are you there?
I'm here, Dean.
Good, lovely to see you. What I will say is, last week I was interviewing John Smith, and do you know, he told me, he said, you can't have us on because he doesn't even have internet out there. I mean, what do you say to that?
Yeah, obviously, they're always joking with me, especially when in 2007, that era, John and the boy, John de Villiers, always joked with a farming boy from the Free State.
Joel, I'd like you to just mention another one of your teammates, Ruben Kruger, another man who was taken far too early from us. What was his special attributes in the squad and as a player?
Yes, I think Ruben was known as the silent assassin. He didn't say much. He was a real quiet guy. But the way I always like to think of a player like Ruben is he was one of those players you didn't want to play against. You know, when we were playing provincial rugby and we were playing against his team, the Cheetahs or the Bulls or whichever team he was in, it was one of those teams where you thought, boy, this guy's going to cause carnage. He's quiet. He's got a low center of gravity. He steals balls. He's a strong carrier. He's got a little mean streak. He gets the elbows in and he's robust. Always tough and difficult to play against.
It's got to play on the left here. All right. We've got sound there, Gary. Bottom left is the player. I think. Yeah.
Now,
right, that was Stransky. And what a bunch of guys.
Do you know what? That 95 win, as people know, I mean, you remember the film Invictus. It was it inspired a Hollywood movie. You know, Matt Damon playing Francois Pienaar there, of course, and Morgan Freeman playing Mandela. And no, Clint Eastwood was the director. Yeah. But what incredible, humble bunch of guys. Yeah. And I mean, we can probably overplay it. In terms of sports history, 95, South Africa was at a crossroads. Yeah. So you had Mandela putting on a Springbok jersey, presenting the World Cup to an Afrikaner, a white captain who understood what this moment meant. Yeah. And here I am interviewing 4 of them. And the beauty of it, Gino, I've got some really good rugby friends or big rugby friends, and they said, you know what, we've heard those guys speak, but some of the stories they'd never heard before. Yeah. Because I think, because they were in their home environment, because it was COVID, they were really relaxed. Yeah.
So you got the good side.
But talk about nerve-wracking. I mean, you're there on a mobile phone, you're having to... But Francois Pienaar, he was the captain. He took control of the whole situation. And no, the delightful men. And as I said, we had 8 weeks of those interviews, and I'd never have got that opportunity if COVID hadn't been there. Yeah. It would have gone to a super sport or something. Yeah. A Dan Nicol or someone like that. You know?
So we've got the Beast on here as well. Did you also do the Beast?
I did the Beast. Yeah. I mean, what a man.
Let's have a look.
Physicality, on the sporting field. Yeah.
Well, let's face it, talking of physicality, I mean, isn't that where the nickname Beast came in primary school? Perhaps you would have made a good goalie, but wasn't it your friends at primary school decided you were getting a bit of a handful there, so they gave you that nickname?
Yes, I got that nickname, when and I was around about that age in primary school. And yeah, like I said, I was a bit of a man child, so I was bigger than the rest of my peers. And you know, my friends kind of, you know, got together and tried to come up with a nickname for me, and I think X-Men came into the picture, and then before I knew it, yeah, you know, they called me Beast, and then it kind of stuck, you know, until now. It's pretty crazy.
Great.
Well, I always remember.
He's such a shy guy.
Amazing.
He's a shy guy, and because I've done a gig with him when he did a talk.
Yeah.
And he was so nervous for doing the talk.
Such humble men, though.
Lovely,
you know,
lovely.
that's something about rugby. It's something
Yeah.
special about it, and so respectful. You know,
Yes.
and we're all in. We felt like we're all in the same boat because we're all stuck at home. We're all bored out of our heads. You know, and
Yes.
and this thing, but they had such respect for the charity, which was great. You know,
Yes,
they
they
all
did.
said yes. You know, I don't know about the current team. Obviously, they're under contract and whatever.
Yeah.
But that generation, the 2007 boys,
Yeah.
amazing.
Brilliant, guys. Let's have a look at some of the comments, and then we're going to talk about your baby, because
Okay.
this is
Yeah.
an incredible story. It's Sue Rose. Do you spread the words about the beauty of your friends and say it to your friends?
Always do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're going to be a marketing person there. If name changing is looking at the meaning of new names in towns and cities, for the most part, represented the place in the local language. You know, it's true. You've got to look at. Everybody's got to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to be a part of that.
For me, the discussion is the important thing here. You know, let's talk about it. Let's be inclusive.
Yeah. What's the greatest thing about Port Elizabeth?
Well, Anton, you're one of the guys. The people.
Yeah.
There really is. You know, they live up to the reputation, the friendly city. Ever since we've been here, extended welcomes. People have introduced other people. And we went to the Anton and Christine's house the other day. I mean, I had the most magnificent Mexican Sunday lunch. I mean, Mexican in Port Elizabeth. Talk about cosmopolitan. But no, we are so happy here. So happy. Fantastic.
Oh, look at Sue Rhodes with her controversial surname.
Sue, you do. But let's see what they'll do up at Macanda with that one. Yeah.
We'll see. That's so awesome. It's a wine guy. I heard about Matjiesfontein for the first time only 4 days ago. Didn't you know the song?
Come on, you've got to get the
book. Daar's 'n trein na Matjiesfontein. Tracy Mace says, what is your your opinion of metal detecting?
That's an interesting story. Well, one of the things about Matjiesfontein is you can still go out into the veldt, into the field, and pick up the bully beef cans, the bullets, the shrapnel from the soldiers that were there. There were 10,000 Imperial troops and 20,000 horses in a 2-month period. Can you imagine the mess they must have left?
Yeah,
I mean, you don't clean up after yourself. So you can go out there and see this, you know, Victoriana lying in the veldt. So metal detecting certainly has its role because you can unearth those kind of objects. But
are the guys doing that solidly there?
Well, please keep it amongst yourself because I think it's quite sacred to leave the stuff there. But I've been guilty of taking the odd thing. And I remember one story, I saw a little lookout post and I climbed up to it. I've got this thing about climbing up high mountains and I've got to get to the highest thing. Yeah. And it was all overgrown and I went inside, a beautiful kind of, the wall had been made and whatever, and I looked under the undergrowth and there was a bully beef can opened. So the 2 British soldiers who were obviously stationed there that day, they'd had their meal and then moved up, maybe lost their life in the South African War. So you just cover it up and leave it there because it's sacred. So those kind of things. I mean, they make me shiver. That's what history's about. You can see it, you can feel it.
Yeah,
and
I love it, and just the real people. I mean, the stories of those soldiers and those people that were there, and I would. That's why I would also love to now hear also stories of those wars on both sides. To hear about what those the people actually did. Now, I wish you had diaries or to see these things. When you read somebody's diary, then it really does give you a good indication of their home life, where they came from. They came from a farm. They came from a thing. What they're doing.
I think sharing that information is so important. Lali and Lazole, who are working with me on the Renaming South Africa project, they recently came to one of my talks in Johannesburg. And it was quite moving. At the end of it, Lally said to me, he said, "You know what, Dean? I've learned so much from you tonight. We've been brought up to think that the white man is here to perhaps take from us and to destroy. But what I heard from you tonight is the passion, the investment and the history that the Europeans have in this country." And that's the dialogue that we need to see, their point of view, our shared point of view, to have that discussion. Quite often here in South Africa, we're very careful because of the past of not having that discussion. And I believe we're at a stage now where the Rainbow Nation is gone. You know, Madiba, the whole honeymoon period is gone. We've now got real issues. We've got real, you know, crisis. You know, we're sitting here in Quebec and now with the water almost gone. You know, and these are the real things. So if you want to argue about names, it comes down to the fundamentals. We need to look at our history and things like that.
And also, there's no argument to say that this name changing thing is taking too much money and too much thing. And so I get that too. But what I would really actually, and I want to get possibly Christian Martin, who was the guy that was spearheading the fight for the name Gqeberha. And he had Khoisan roots, and I'd love to hear from someone like that with passion about seaside, you know, see what, because there's been so much opposition to the name change here as well, and I'd love to hear from the horse's mouth to hear that passion coming out, why he fought for it. You know what the real story is, and then I can start to understand as well. Because, you know, because often you just think, oh, well, nobody can pronounce it, you know, whatever. But it's not about just that, you know.
And in any form of life, discussion, conversation is healthy. It's healthy. It leads to understanding.
I'd love to get him on the show. We'll see. Maybe we'll get our Christian Martin on the show for us. Yolanda Bukani, we were going to get Yolanda on as well. She's from Alice. And she's one of our brand ambassadors. She's fantastic. Such a lovely lady, and such a great. She did. Yolanda. She introduced us actually. Thank you, Yolanda, for introducing us. It's been an amazing ride. And my Gino, she calls me Gino, because I'm special. Hilary Pringle, hey, welcome. Hope you've been to Adelaide, up to the Winterberg.
Adelaide appears in the book. So yeah, excellent. Of course I've been to Adelaide.
And, your daughter's fast asleep.
Daniela is fast asleep, which is nice. So
your daughter. Let's have a quick look at some of the other comments just before we get to your daughter.
We are going on to my daughter.
Yes. There we go, little turtle. Oh, there we go. Well, let's talk about it here now, because maybe something that happens when you know, something that amazing that happens, that not necessarily pushing in the right way. You know?
Well, I'm joking, but I can see it now. I think a lot of people are waiting for this famous video. I mean, I'm going to be not known as Dean Allen, the historian. I'm going to be known as Daniela's father, I think.
Yes,
or the man that appeared in Speedos recently on King's Beach, but that's another story.
Listen, my wife was the first thing she said when she saw that video. So what the hell is he wearing?
Yeah, I know. I didn't go prepared that day. That was the thing. It kind of makes it natural, but a bit. One of my friends said, "Cute video, Dean, but we've got to have a word about your swimmers." And I said, "Well, I didn't know it was going to go viral on the internet."
Well, let's have a look and then at the first video, and then you can explain. Okay, well, give us some context. How did this happen?
Okay, so anybody who doesn't know, I'm believe it or not, I turned 50 in July last year. So. I've had quite a big year, so not only have we moved to Port Elizabeth, I got married, and we had a beautiful daughter last October, on the 8th of October. It took
late starter.
Late starter. They call it late lamaki, late lamb. Late lamaki, yeah. So yeah, myself and Danny, we had to do a lot of sort of soul searching and adjustment, but she has been an absolute blessing. She is such a little character. Everybody says that about their kids, but this one. She's just into everything. She's so curious, and we wanted to bring her up that way. But she's in South Africa. She is literally taken with us wherever we go. She loves people. So we're at the beach this day, and we've only taken her to the beach once or twice. But this day, we put her down on the sand, and off she went. And I thought, this looks really sort of cute. And I said to Danny, she looks like a turtle. She looks like a little turtle trying to get to the water. And the rest is history, because, as I said, I put the video up thinking, okay, a few people will watch it. That was almost sort of eight or 9 days ago. We're over 20 million views on this video.
20 million
20 million views.
on this.
So I can spend hours and days writing all this wonderful historical content, trying to, add to education. And I promise you, listen to this, Gino. My following, which was quite big on Facebook, was about 22,000.
Yes.
Since then, we've just passed today, in the last hour, 75,000 followers.
Unbelievable.
As a result of the little turtle video that you're going to see now, I'm sure. So.
Let's have a look at the little turtle. Oh my. So again, she needs is a helmet and a camouflage, and she'll be going through the jungle.
But you watch her speed up now. She looks back, she thinks, shall I go for it? And then she speeds up. This is the thing, she's thinking. Am I going to go for that sea? Yes, I am. And you watch the speed.
All right then.
You watch your sound spray in a minute. She's off. But she looks back for Dad's reassurance any minute now. She's watch this.
She's just seen where you are.
No, she goes, off she goes. And then
just chicken.
and the cheeky smile. I don't know who she gets that from. I think probably her mum will say me. I don't know. But no, the funny thing was about that, we had such traction, and everybody kept saying, millions of people were watching this, and we had thousands of people saying, where's part 2? What happened when the little turtle reached the sea? The problem was, when the little turtle reached the sea, I was in my Speedos holding it. And that, I'm afraid, I never thought me and my Speedos would be viewed by 8 million people, but that's what's happened as well. So it's taken a life of his own.
Have you got the one of his Speedo as well, Gary? Are you going to look it up as well?
Thankfully not. Thank you, Gary. I'm glad. You'll have to go online to watch the Speedo
one. Because let me tell you, my wife said as soon as she saw that Speedo, I was like, what on earth is he wearing? Tell him he's got to sort out his
Gary, please, the viewers have had enough tonight. Please, spare them. But it just shows you, doesn't it, the power of social media. And the beauty is, tonight we've got an audience from all around the world. Yeah. They've come, they've watched. They say you never work with animals and kids, but proves that you should, because that's what they're doing. But for me, it's fantastic because I want to show some of my personality online. Yes, it's part of me. I'm a family man now, and got the most beautiful wife and beautiful daughter. But I've got a feeling she's going to become more popular at some stage, because I think people are waiting for the next baby video. Our little baby turtle, as she's known.
It's unbelievable. 20 million views. And I mean, that must have created like a whole, your phone must have gone crazy.
My phone, every day, I think I've got about 300 WhatsApps that are not answered. I'm getting messages from Bangladesh, from Trinidad, from Canada, from the United States, from Australia, saying how cute is your baby and those kind of things. And I don't know, I'm a bit reserved. I'm a private person. I didn't know whether to put that out, but how beautiful is that? And I think we had something like 90,000 comments, and only 2 people said, oh, should you allow your baby on the sand because of the bacteria? And I thought, do you know what?
Bacteria?
No, I thought...
They need bacteria, come on.
What can you do? For me,
otherwise you're going to end up with another COVID.
No, you're a dad. It's one of the best places to grow up in South Africa, because you experience nature, isn't it?
Yes.
And that baby, she's going to grow up speaking Slovakian, Afrikaans, English. She's got a choice of living here or going back to Europe. I hope she lives here, because that's where we are. But what a place to grow up. And we go back to education. I still believe we have some of the best schools in the world here, with old-fashioned values, and I'm looking forward to really growing in this country.
It's a lovely place to bring. It's a lovely place to bring up children. You know.
Well, that's it. We're sounding old now, aren't we?
That too. And I know I've got the second little getting to know you part to sort of round it off nicely for this. It's a couple of getting to know you, but now I want the getting to know you section, please. I want the little introduction. There we go.
Getting to know you, getting to know all about you.
Julian,
wonderful.
I like that. Okay, so what makes your favorite place that you've ever been to better than all the other places that you've been to?
Well, I've said it before, South Africa and its people. When I first arrived in the 90s, the hospitality, the fact that it was spontaneous, people would open their doors. I often say here in South Africa, people will offer you a meal and a bed. you know, at the drop of a hat. Whereas often, can I say this about Britain, we're quite reserved. We tend to go to a pub to meet.
Yes.
It's a public place. Whereas here, I felt like there was a really warm welcome. And I also, it was a place where people, I could kind of give an opinion and people listened.
Yeah.
You wouldn't talk that a lot of the time. So no, I've been to some beautiful places. I've been, you know, and I still, the world's out there, and I'm going to take that little baby and my wife with me, and we're going to travel. But no, South Africa, because of its people.
Yeah. Oh, good, good. The worst job that you've ever had.
Oh, this is a good one.
Good moan now.
Here we go. It was a rotten job as well. And it goes back to how I met my wife. I come from a town called Minehead, and Minehead, for the British audience will know, is famous for a place called Butlins Holiday Camp. Butlins is an old-fashioned holiday camp that was created in the 1950s after the war, and 8,000 people each week go to this camp. It sounds like a concentration camp, but it's a holiday camp, I promise you. And my wife, and there were a lot of Europeans, she's Slovakian, there were Hungarians, Romanians, Polish. They were brought in because, A, they're very good workers, but probably they don't ask for the money that the British do as well. We won't talk Brexit, that's another thing.
Yes.
But Danny, wonderful, wonderful person. She was running probably the best restaurant there. And anyway, I met her because of Butlins Holiday Camp. But we go back to when I was 16 years of age. And I was nagging my father because he knew the guy who ran the HR department at Butlins. Now, back then, it wasn't so nice as it is today.
Yes, yes.
And I remember turning up, and my dad made the call. And this guy said, listen, your boy better be prepared. I've got one job, but it's the only job I've got. And I went in, and he said to me on the very first day, listen, you're going to do a job now that you'll never do again in the rest of your life. And he handed me a pair of dungarees, and he handed me a brush, and I had to go and clean the toilets.
I knew that was coming out.
The toilets was one thing. There was another one where I was down on my hands and knees. Remember, everyone's on holiday. And the worst thing is they gave you a name badge. My name is Dean. And I remember this old lady saying, oh, Shane, look at you down there. The best day, and I only lasted 4 days, Gino. I'm not a hero. I just said enough's enough. The best day was picking up litter in the car park. That was the highlight of my 4 days.
So, my name is Dean. I'll pick up your litter and I'll clean your toilets.
No, nothing worse.
Somebody's got to do it.
That was horrific memory. So Butlins has good and bad memories.
I get that. Minehead. There was a Monty Python sketch on Minehead, actually. But a Python fan with the by-elections and the way.
Probably was, yeah. John Cleese, he's a West Country man, and that's the way he would have gone there. Yeah,
it was very funny. But it was a bit. Well, you can look it up. The biggest pressure moment that you've ever had.
Right. Apart from appearing on the Gino show.
Oh yes.
It had to be when I went back to the UK and. The Empire War in cricket had just come out, and I thought, listen, we're going to make this big in England. It's about cricket. Everybody will want to see it. And I remember paying a lot of money for an agent, and this agent didn't get me much, but she got me one thing: an interview on national BBC radio, on Radio 2 on the drive time. And I had 3 minutes, and it was a live interview. And the guy said to me before we went live, "Don't worry, but we're speaking to 8.5 million people." 8.5 million people. So I just literally had to think, I'm just speaking to you. Don't think about, don't swear, please don't. And honestly, that was a pressure moment. And thankfully, he was very kind to me and we got through the thing. But talk about pressure. 8 million people listening to every word.
BBC too. That is a big one. That is a big one. And it's that 2 minutes or whatever
2 minutes.
It's like, Yeah. Crazy. Your downtime. How do you spend your downtime? What do you do when you relax?
Well, at the moment we're not getting much sleep, so I'd like to say sleep, but I'm not much of a napper. I mean, our little darling, she's a live wire in the day, so we take it in turns for the spare room, which is not conducive to a happy marriage, but we get our sleep. But no, I'm a big sports fan. I love exercise. I swim a lot. Hence the speedos.
Oh yes,
speedos.
The speedos. You do the ocean swimming.
No, I love the gym. I love swimming. I still try and play a bit of football and tennis. Okay. I'm a Bristol City supporter, so I'm long suffering. That's why I lost my hair. You know, I'm always supporting the underdog.
One day they'll take the cup.
But history's my passion. I mean, it's storytelling.
Of course.
I mean, this isn't a job, is it?
You do the job you love. You do the job you love.
So that's my downtime. Sport and reading about history and stuff.
Love it.
Yeah,
love it. Have you ever been in a car accident?
Oh my goodness! Have I been in a car?
Story.
Have I been in a car accident? Probably,
really?
Probably one you've never heard of. Yeah. When I was 18, I just passed my test. And I remember, when you're 18, you want to drive your dad's car everywhere. You just want to take people. And my sister wanted to go out, so I said, "Okay, I'll take you out." So I dropped her off in the local town, and as I was coming back, pitch black. It was the middle of winter, and where we live, close to where we live, there's a racehorse stable. And my dad had a Sierra Sapphire. Do you remember the Ford Sierra?
It's the one with the...
And they're curved, which they're kind of smooth and curved. And thankfully, it probably saved my life that night, because as I went round the corner, there were 4 racehorses in the middle of the road.
Man.
And to this day, I can't remember what happened, but apparently 3 ran back down the lane and 1 horse stayed there. I hit this horse, it went onto the roof, it flattened the roof of the car. The only thing I did was I knocked out my front tooth, so this is actually a crown. It knocked me out, and the car travelled about 50 foot, and people coming the other way could see what happened. And I had concussion. But that was my brush with death. I thank the Lord that he spared me that day. And do you know what? The good old NHS, I was taken to the local hospital in Minehead, even after that incident, and I was discharged within the next hour because they said I was okay.
Oh man, after concussion.
So it was quite some story. So
scary. It's scary. I remember the Sapphire was the other sedan version of the Sierra. Sierra.
Great car.
Goeie karre. We have a lot of Sierras here in Port Elizabeth.
They're still running around,
And Gary had one for a long time as well. We used to call it the cockroach pit.
Oh, was it that bad, Gary?
It was just full of cockroaches. In fact,
cockroaches got loose.
Few cockroaches got loose.
Gary, that's nothing to be proud of. Cockroaches in your car. No, keep that quiet.
It was terrible. It was terrible. Shame the late Sam Minnie eventually got that car. He bought it from you. I think
cockroaches flourished.
They flourished after Sam.
You didn't charge him extra for the inhabitants. No.
Did you ever have a drop the mic moment?
Well, yeah, if those moments happen, I tell you what, talk about precious situation, as a speaker. Have you ever heard of a thing called Pecha Kucha?
Pecha Kucha?
Pecha Kucha as a speaker is like literally testing your skill. It's a thing that's worldwide phenomenon, and basically it was developed in Japan, and it's you've all been to talks death by PowerPoint, where somebody has put a PowerPoint up and it goes on for hours.
In this service, this is thing in this.
The Japanese said enough's enough.
Number 1.
Yeah. Enough's enough. If you can't get your point across in 6.5 minutes, you shouldn't be speaking. So Pecha Kucha is an entertainment where basically speakers are picked, and you go along and you have 20 slides, and literally they're changed automatically in 6.5 minutes. So I tell the story of Matjiesfontein. It normally takes me about 45 minutes. I put on a show, I take my time. I have to tell this story in 6.5 minutes. But not only that, the night that I do it at Pecha Kucha, it's at Cape Town City Hall. There are 1,500 people in the audience. And I'm thinking, I don't know if Phil's listening, but my best mate Phil, brilliant. He's so laid back. I sit there in the front row before my time comes on, and I said, Phil, have you seen this audience? He said, what are you worried about, Dean? You do this all the time. I said, Phil, it's the Cape Town City Hall. There's 1,500 people. So I'd already practiced in the day, and I kept getting behind, and I was getting more and more stressed. So I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to trust this. So with a couple of brandy and cokes, and brandy and cokes are our medicine in South Africa, I get up on the stage, and thankfully the guy before me, he was probably one of the most boring speakers I've ever heard at Spectacle. Thank goodness. And I started off probably with brandy and coke inside me with the first line, "Good evening, Cape Town." And I thought, here we go. And I just spoke. And do you know what? It was word perfect. I kept up with the slides. And at the end, I said, enjoy your break. And I left that stage. That was probably the moment.
There we go.
And it was brandy and cokes that did it.
Well, there we go. Oh, Dean, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. I don't know if there's anything we've left out. There was so much to talk about as well.
What a joy. I'd love to come back.
You were absolutely, and I'm sure we're going to be one of our hubs we're going to do. We need to have a show from you every now and again, especially if you've been traveling around and your history and your journey with this with this thing that you're doing with Adrian Gardner as well, writing the history here. I absolutely love it. And thank you for being such a great ambassador. And coming
last
out.
lot of comments?
There are some more comments. Let's have a look at some of the comments as they come in.
Let's look at the website.
This is your website.
This is my Facebook page, which now has 75,000 followers and growing. So if you want to see the speedos or anything like that, away you go.
We can even wave it ourselves on the website.
We can even wave it ourselves here.
Yeah, we can.
There she is.
There's your baby.
And you can see here she is again. She's off. And Gary, don't go down to the speedos.
Oh, go, Gary, do it, Gary, good. Oh,
there she is. There she is.
There's
There he is.
the speedo. There we go.
There we go. I don't want to put anyone off their dinner. But yeah, that's my Facebook page. So if you don't already follow, please do. I try to put something educational on every day.
That's the website.
That's my website. The tagline: "The man who brings history to life." And I believe that history is one of the most important things we've got to tell stories. It's all about telling stories. And for me, I can reach a wide audience through the likes of you. There's Gareth Cliff I did an interview with. That's all the media work we've done. And it's not been an easy journey. It's taken time. We're still growing our audience.
And it's stressful. I mean, to do these sort of Gareth Cliffs is also he's quite hectic. So you've got to be out there and you've got to take that risk.
No, you've got to take the risk, and I will travel back to Adelaide. I will go, and if anybody would like a signed book as well, of course, just contact me through my email address, which is dean@deanallen.co.za. And I'll sign them for you. But no, it's an absolute pleasure to be here tonight with you, Gino, and thank Gary for all his hard work.
It's a pleasure.
I've never known such a hard-working guy in the background there.
I see there was a comment there. I just spotted a comment there from Greg. He said a couple of.
Here he is.
There he is. Gary.
For a bloody change.
Here he is.
I'm running the camera right now, so I'm not here. But I just wanted to say what a pleasure it's been to meet you, Dean. Dean found me because Yolandi, as I said,
Yolanda Bukani.
Thank you, Yolanda. Yes. And Dean was so enthusiastic, and I could hear within a minute or two of talking to him that spirit of loving the Eastern Cape with all of his heart, which is something that Ginos Spot is it's something that has driven us since the day we started. That he shares that same passion, and as an entrepreneur in an industry. Like being an author, he managed to create multiple streams of income using social media, taking his role as an author and understanding our culture so very amazingly, and then representing, even within 1 month, representing the beauty that is in the Eastern Cape. And if you go onto his website or you go onto the Facebook page, you will see him traveling around to all these amazing places throughout PE and documenting our stories.
And Eastern Cape, I mean, but just being that, getting it out there in such a short period of time as well is amazing.
It's incredible.
No, it's a privilege. When you've got such beautiful places and you've got such great people, it really is. And thank you so much. And how much do I owe you for that?
And one last thing, I spoke about the spirit of collaboration, and the amount that Dean has taught us over the last 2 days, and the ideas we've managed to share, and the way we've managed to, just in such a short time, share our platforms and reach out to Dean's audience and introduce Dean to our Gino Spot Eastern Cape audience as well. It's such a lovely symbiotic kind of relationship, and it's something that we're definitely wanting to develop in Gino Spot. We're wanting to create, Gina mentioned earlier, we're wanting to create hubs where where people like Sandy Coffey, for instance, she will be dealing with the really, really deep issues. The last
serious issues.
But in the last couple of shows, we've covered loss. We've covered aging. And those kind of. So Sandy's got some amazing guests lined up, and she's going to be doing. She's got the
Thomas Schaffer,
the worldwide head of Volkswagen.
He was, of course, head of Volkswagen here, and he's gone on to become the worldwide head of Volkswagen. Isn't that incredible? From PE here as well.
And we can spend some time to getting to know him. You know, and that's good. So it's behind the scenes. It's a bit of a different take. And Dean, thank you for being prepared to share some things that are unusual and are unknown about your life.
Can I just say, from my point of view, guys, I'm not just saying this because of your kind words. In all my experience of dealing with sort of media and things, I mean, what you do here is spontaneous, it's creative, there's an energy. And I know, having spoken to people, as soon as I came to Port Elizabeth, your names came up. The fact that you know, and it was, I suppose it was inevitable we were going to meet, but your professionalism, how we set this up. I mean, you can't see, ladies and gentlemen, but here is a wonderful studio, and it's authentic. It's real. It's not. We didn't script any of this. I was scared to death that Gino would ask me to sing tonight. That was the only thing. But
we were going to do it. We were going to do an Englishman in Paris.
No,
but you didn't buy into it.
It was when you asked me to do it in my speedos. That was the limit. I wasn't going to do that.
And one last thing. The last 2 or 3 days have been quite an adventure because I've inundated Dean with ideas in terms of what exciting things we can do. And one of the things that we are entertaining is having Dean run one of these portals for us. And in that, what we're hoping he'll do is he'll continue to tell the stories of the Eastern Cape. And he will continue to celebrate this amazing place that we live in, that we've all chosen to live in for a good reason. And that those of us who live here and love the Eastern Cape know that we have the most amazing lifestyle. Despite the issues we have to deal with, the most amazing lifestyle we live in the Eastern Cape. And we're surrounded by beauty, and we're surrounded by wonderful people, as you've mentioned so far. So to all of you that support Ginos Spot, and for all of you that share the posts, and if you can if we can ask you to do us one favor, and that is, if you love the Eastern Cape, can you share this video with share the link? It's got this has gone live now. But it's going to
YouTube link,
there's a YouTube. It's on. You can look on YouTube and you can look on Facebook, and it's linked to the top of Dean's page. So if you share any of those links with friends, they can get an experience of the Eastern Cape, and they can with Ginos Spot, especially expats and people who've left
and feel the need to also reconnect, because that's also what this is about. It's all about a reconnection, you know. And particularly people who've left for a long time, and it's great for them to. We've got guys that come on regularly that really enjoy that reconnection from the UK, from New Zealand. I know Ronald Minehead must be out there as well. Ronald, all the way, he wakes up early in New Zealand to watch the show. I love that, and we can always try sort of bring it all back to the Eastern Cape in some way.
So I've surprised Gino, because he didn't even know I was going to come up. Because I like to be behind the scenes, that's the thing. But I'd like to thank you, Gino, for when COVID first hit, we were completely decimated as an entertainment company. And Gino had the foresight to, on day 2 of COVID, to start entertaining people in his kitchen, but
my wife didn't like
that. And the videos were crappy, and the sound was all over the show, and we had that amazing. He had that amazing spirit, and he's got that spirit that never dies. And this is a guy who just, you can never get him down. I mean, he bounces back from everything. And it was his unbelievable fortitude and that kind of stuff that got me through those first months of COVID, when I turned into a hermit. And we've been building Ginos Spot from that same spirit of genuinely wanting to uplift our community from the bottom of our hearts, because we found our meaning in through Ginos Spot. And we found our meaning by being able to connect with you guys, and we found our meaning by being able to facilitate you connecting with your own friends and your own friendship network. And that's meant the world to us. It really has, and it's that same spirit that we are moving out of COVID now, and we're going to be building something really strong here. And I'm looking forward to being able to celebrate life again. We've got a fantastic new show coming up. And It's going to be called Super Lekker Summer, and it's going to celebrate everything about regaining that spirit and that momentum, and picking yourself back up again and starting to enjoy life, and to shake the foundation, the way we used to be passionate before we started getting all defensive. We were all going back into that time again, and we need to reframe our experiences and learn from the best that we can, and that's the spirit of Ginos Spot, and that's the spirit of collaboration that we're going to have through partners, and we're going to offer opportunities for other people like Spa who've been phenomenal to us. Angelo from this is extra on the end of the show, and I know that everybody can get to listen to you, but I'm using this as an opportunity to also thank first of all Gary de Bruin from Fitch and Leeds. To let you know what happened, Gino started the show by himself because we were in lockdown. I couldn't even come here in the initial thing, and Gino approached Gary de Bruin and he said, I've got this idea, and Gary de Bruin bought us the equipment right up front at that early time during COVID, when everybody was so shell-shocked.
It's taking a risk, I mean, we didn't know what we were getting into, but we knew we needed something to get started.
That's right.
And he really bought in at that early time, so all kudos to Fitch and Leeds.
And after that, something amazing happened as well. We've had Gino, and our relationship with Spa goes back years and years and years, and they have been so good to us, and they are a company whose culture has always been to try to find a win-win. And the reason that Spa thrives and does so well is they encourage their individual store owners to have their own sense of identity and put their own selves into their branches, and that's why Spa is
very successful.
Yes, we all consider Spa to be the centre of the hub of our communities and our suburbs. You know, and that's because they have that incredible philosophy that runs through the entire company. Okay, when we walked in to Angelo's office at Spa, Angelo said to us, first of all, he made a point to us here straight away, and he said to us, Gino and Gary, I know you guys have been hit badly by COVID, and I know you're coming to present something to us. At this point, we had this idea about doing the show, and we still didn't know where it was going to go or what it's going to be. And Angelo said, before you carry on, okay, whatever idea you're pitching you're going to pitch to us, I'm going to support it. So I'm telling you that up front. Okay?
Amazing.
And in this day and age, what company does that for you? And you know why they did that? They did that with that same sense of a spirit of collaboration and a true spirit of wanting to help and uplift our community, and so we are so eternally grateful to Spa and to Fitch and Leeds and to Grace that's given us this wonderful food here. Grace from Fat Cats, it's so very, very much appreciated, and of course
Nicola
from Amobia,
who's been jumped on early as well. She said, "Come on, we're going to do this." So we are heading into a new phase of the show, and we are going to continue this, and we're going to make it better. And we're gonna spend more time on the shows, preparing them as well. So we probably will end up doing twice a week we've been doing now, but our main show is on a Tuesday. We will add in the Thursdays as and when. And
that's right. And another thing we're going to start doing, we're going to start creating, because we've done Gino's done over 300 interviews, which means that we've had the privilege of being able to document, put a stake in the ground and document the accolades, and to celebrate. We've always taken the approach of celebrating those of us who've made extraordinary contributions to the Eastern Cape, and those of us, those that we know that are characters and are storytellers, and are the ones that the people that Dean goes around the towns interviewing. He sees the history through the characters and through the people, and Dean then offers an amazing window into our culture from a different perspective, and we are going to be hoping to bring those stories to you guys through the history portal, through Keen Like Dean. Hashtag Keen Like Dean. And we're going to be providing opportunities for other companies and other individuals who want to get involved to help grow this project and to grow the collaborative spirit of this project, and to build this into something far greater and more meaningful for our community. And we're going to uplift the Eastern Cape in a real way, and that's our goal. And I'd like to once again thank you all, and I'm going to go and
you can go and do the competition now.
I'm going to go backstage and do the competition.
Also, one other thing that we are going to do is we're going to make a physical. There must be a physical get together that we're going to have as well, which we are looking at planning too, and we need to figure out exactly what it's going to be, but we need to get this community together in one of our big buildings in the city as well. So that'll be fantastic.
The last comments.
Yeah. Okay. Quick last of the comments. Oh, Daniela's fast asleep.
She's still asleep, is she?
Still asleep there. Then your little turtle. Yes. Garth Webster says development of small dorpies is all about passion and vision. You're right, Garth.
Totally.
He's in the property trade as well. Great. The drinking holes of EC. I'm going to ask a question now, and if somebody answers the question before we get that thing up. Greg Smith send me a whole lot of questions here for people who know PE. How many burgers could you buy at the Hamburger Hut at 2 a.m. for 20 rand? He says. I want to know the answer to that, because I think you can work it out. If you can, send me the answer, and we'll try and organize you a prize. Garth West, come on, he hasn't had electricity for about 2 weeks. Oh dear, it sounds like load shedding there. Ronald Minor, there he is.
Morning,
guys. He says he's all the way from New Zealand.
Have a shower, please.
Yes, please. Chris asked, sorry, never updated my profile. What an amazing check. Thank you very much. Michael Clement, he's on the beachfront here. Thank you. It's pineapples because of Bathurst. You see?
Yes.
Bathurst. The pineapple there. Christina here from the UK. Hello, Krista. The Speedos went viral, says Philip.
Not sure about that.
Not your babies, he said. Oh dear, I don't know about that. Oh, thank you guys.
Brilliant.
Yes, competition time. All right, so it's competition time. There's nobody that's answered the question yet. The answer to that was the Rio Hamburger Hut. Was a Rio Hamburger Hut, and it looked like 10 rand. So it says 4 burgers, 2 burgers. Have we got a winner? So the answer would have been 2 burgers.
Yeah.
Hey, we got it.
See, he's one of my students.
Monroe,
top of the class.
He knows it well. Obviously, he's been drunk at 2 o'clock in the morning. Well done, Monroe. You got the answer to the question. Brendan getting 4 burgers is wrong. You might be right with the price, but Rio was 10 rand. 10 rand or Rio, I don't know. Thank you so much, man. Fantastic to have you on. Wow.
Keep up the good work. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you on Tuesday, I believe. Yes, Tuesday it will be. Next Tuesday, we'll see you online. Woo! Cheers, guys. Take it to Spa. Take it to Fishing Leads. Thank you to Amodia. And Grace from Fat Cats. Love you.
Relax, sit down. Coming out of PE town. Drink, find a shot. Never mind your liver. Get to Ginos Spot.
Ginos Spot.
Get to Ginos Spot.
Ginos Spot.
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle. Have a Gino shot.
Ginos Shot.
Get to Ginos Spot.
Ginos Spot.
Get to Ginos Spot.
Ginos Spot.
Have a laugh, have a giggle, and exercise your middle. Get to Ginos Spot.
Ginos Spot.
I could have warned you.